for tonight. All right. It is 7 p.m. I would like to call the meeting to order, and I would like to invite our Shadow Mountain Choir students to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Greenberg. Here. Mrs. Bacon.
Here.
Mr. Laney.
Here.
Mrs. Matura.
Here.
Mrs. Case.
Here.
Next on the agenda is approval of agenda. Dr. Bales.
Thank you, President Matura. Items approved by consent will not come up for discussion during the meeting, but will be approved when the agenda is adopted. This is possible since members of the governing board receive the agenda along with backup materials at least 24 hours prior to the meeting and have time to review and consider all items. Prior to the agenda being adopted, members of the governing board or audience may ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda and brought to the floor for discussion at the appropriate place on the agenda. I would like to offer the agenda as posted.
Does any member of the governing board wish to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Does any member of the audience wish to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, Mrs. Bacon, may I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda and recommended consent agenda items G1 to G14?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is governing board statements. Mrs. Case?
Thank you. We come to a close of another school year. Well, almost. There's still finals and celebrations to be had and some more concerts, but how exciting for the students to be back in person as they chose to do and to have field trips started again. I'm so excited that we can be about the business that we've been doing for so long. And we're grateful for the teachers adjusting to all the things they had to adjust to this past couple of years, and for the students adjusting, and for the parents working so hard to help their students. And that's what makes it paradise when everyone works together. Thank you.
Mrs. Bacon?
Yes, I just wanted to say what a great experience Student Voice was again. I know we talk about this every single time we have Student Voice, but the insight, the wisdom, the amazing intelligence of these kids that we meet with is just, it just makes me feel good about the future of the world and where we're going. It is the end of a school year, although we do have, I know that people are counting, right? We have 4.5 days with students and longer for our employees, but I want to wish you all a great, restful summer, calm summer, where you can take some time to recharge. And thank you for everything that you have all done. Teachers, students, parents, all of our staff, for making this year a great year.
Mr. Laney?
Yeah, I would like to iterate that on Student Voice. That was fun. And thank you again to PV High School for providing the food for us. I actually toured that department not that long ago, and it's incredible. And then yesterday, I toured the CTE program. Was it yesterday? Was it 2 days? I can't remember. But I toured it at PV High School too, and some of the programs that we have are really awesome, I want to say. I also got the opportunity to attend two of my kids' performances. Not that I'm speaking about my kids, but that's the reason why I went to them. One of them was for North Ranch. They'd had a little band concert, and that was really cute. And then Horizon High School had a new pop concert where they did a lot of cool songs. And if you didn't go, you really missed something. It was impressive. Let's see. And yeah, so I was grateful to go to that.
Mrs. Greenberg?
Yeah, Student Voice was doubly interesting, I guess we can say, because not only did we have the students that we normally talk to, we had the incoming Stugo heads. So we got a chance to meet some of the individuals who will be leading their consoles next year. And again, the conversation was amazing. I had the opportunity to sit with our contingent from Shadow, and Mr. Appleman was taking notes the whole time. There were some great ideas, and I hope many of them come to fruition within Shadow's halls. Also had the opportunity to briefly attend the Desert Springs Prep Art Walk, and just amazing. The artwork was phenomenal. Every student had work there. There were pieces that you would have thought were, you know, high school and above. The sixth graders did ceramic ice cream cones that truly look good enough to eat. I mean, when I first saw them, I'm like, oh, refreshments, but they were amazing. And there is, I believe it's the Tree of Life is how Mrs. Chesney described it. There is every student, every year she's been having the students do one little piece of a picture, but they don't know what it will be until she puts it together. And this year there is a tree where each student got to do a leaf, multicolored, multi-hued, and it's just gorgeous. And so if you have a chance to go to Desert Springs, it's on one of their walls and it's beautiful. And also this week was able to attend Quail Run's exhibition night, where our sixth grade IB students present their projects. And as Mrs. Bacon said, our world is in good hands. The projects, which the students all choose themselves, they partner with other classmates and wide variety, but they really have to dig deep into their subjects and come up with solutions, and then also do a project or an activity that's that supports their overall project. So one of the groups I attended, they had gone to, I'm going to mangle the name, so I'm not going to say it, but a support group that was supportive of what they were doing, and talked about opportunities for kids to do community service, and it was great. So busy week, and it will continue. We have Roadrunner graduation tomorrow, and I look forward to that with some of my colleagues here. And for everybody, good luck next week with finals and final days and graduations. I'm looking forward. I'll be at Pinnacle. And to everybody, thank you. Thank you for a very full and very fulfilling year. And I hope your summer is a great one.
It's been busy weeks around our district, and it's always fun when we get to meet with the students and see what they've been doing and see what teachers have been doing in their classrooms. And so student voice, definitely high points. The exhibition night at Quill Run was a lot of fun. I did enjoy learning so much from the students. I mean, they were talking about childhood poverty and reading, and they were, some of the service projects have been teaching the kindergartners about their project. And so they had to research and then present to the visiting adults. And it was really fantastic to see their what they chose and how they presented it. So that was really great. I was glad to be a part of that. I also got to see the Desert Springs Prep Art Walk, which was a lot of fun, and the Quail Run Choir Concert. So I got lots of arts in the past couple of weeks. And I do want to say a special congratulations to our seniors and their families, because graduations are, imminent. So very exciting time for a lot of our students and a huge part of our district. And thank you to everyone who helped accomplish that. There's so many people that are working hard to get our students to where they need to be. And so it's been a great year. And thank you all. And next on the agenda is Dr. Bales with awards and recognitions.
Thank you, President Ventura. It's always a pleasure to highlight students and staff for success. Mr. Droege will MC our honors this evening.
Good evening, President Ventura, governing board members, Dr. Bales, members of cabinet, and attendees both in person and virtual. Tonight, we have several student and employee recognitions to share with you. The Arizona Council of Economics Educators hosts the Invest Right Student Essay Contest each year. And this year, the elementary state winner is from PVSchools. From Fireside Elementary, please stand, Aditya Kencha. Next, we're thrilled to announce that our Sonoran Sky Elementary School, Sunrise Middle School, and Paradise Valley High School teams have placed at the top of this year's eCyber Mission competition. Congratulations to all these students for their hard work and dedication. The Arizona State winners first place from Sonoran Sky Elementary School, Bella Ross and Sydney Tan. National finalist, regional finalist, and Arizona State winners from Sunrise Middle School, Eric Wang, Aditya Vashishta, and Ira Parsons. They're joined by their counterpart from Scottsdale Unified School District, Charles Skidmore. Regional finalist and Arizona State winners from Sunrise Middle School, Miley Witt. My page broke at a really bad spot, so please also congratulate Rylan Milkarek. Arizona State winners first place from Paradise Valley High School Crest is Riley Mogalian and Oliver Hirth. Next, the PV student athletes have done it again. North Canyon High School, Pinnacle High School, and Shadow Mountain High School athletes competed and won in individual Division 1, 3, and 3 AIA track and field championships. This is an amazing accomplishment that could not have been done without their dedication and hard work. The AIA Division 2 state championship and individual champions and overall winner is the North Canyon High School track team. Long jump and the 300 is Joy Moorer. Triple jump and high jump, Gloria Hussey. The 4x100 meter relay, Naomi Malone. The 4x100 meter and 4x400 meter relay, 2 students, Janaea Hill and Jada Stewart. The 4x100 meter relay, 3 students, Olivia Hussey, Ava Ardizon, and Treasure Rinaldi. Division 1 individual champions from Pinnacle High School in the 200 meter, McKenna Watson. In the 800 meter, Gabriella Chiara. And from Shadow Mountain High School Division 3 individual champions, 1600 meter, 3200 meter, and the 4x800 meter, Nate Petska. Also in that relay, Jack Rea. And the 4x800 meter relay, Ryan Brass and Cannon Bolas. Our next recognition is the United Parent Council 2022 Jerry L. Morgan Volunteer Award. The Jerry L. Morgan Volunteer Award honors volunteers who display dedication and service to their community as exemplified by late UPC member Jerry Morgan. This evening, the presentation will be made by Ms. Lori Berman.
Good evening, President Matura. Can you hear me? Good evening, President Matura, Governing Board, Dr. Bales, Cabinet, everybody who's here in person and virtually. It is absolutely my honor to once again be presenting the Jerry Morgan Award on behalf of the United Parent Council. Jerry Morgan was the exemplary volunteer, a former elementary school teacher. She was an active UPC member and published the newsletter and followed legislation long before UPC played a participatory role. Jerry Morgan unfortunately was killed in a one-car rollover accident on the family's return from a Flagstaff weekend in 2005. An anonymous donor established the upfront money for the original award that we continue today. The 2022 nominees are Tara Anderson from Liberty Elementary, Stephanie Wolfe from Whispering Wind, Stephanie Kapla from Boulder Creek, Linda Shapiro from Boulder Creek, Margie Moore from Quail Run, Crystal McCabe from Eagle Ridge, Emily Newman from Larkspur, and Megan Starr from Sonoran Sky. A few notes about our winner. This year's winner is what every school needs to be successful. She is a true gift to the school community. Her commitment to the students has been invaluable. She builds relationships with the kids, and they love to go to work with her and talk to her. It has been the greatest privilege to work with someone with such compassion towards her school. She is active in the PTA and volunteers at events. She is willing to do anything to help our campus. It would be hard to find a staff member or student on campus that has not been touched by her generosity. It is my honor to present the 2022 Jerry Morgan Award to Margie Moore. Would you like to say a few words and maybe introduce your family?
Sure. You know what? Doesn't everything go back to our parents, right? And my father's no longer alive, but my mother's right here. And she's 90 years old. And then this is my husband, Stan Moore. He teaches 8th grade math. Need I say more? And also, he's just quite a hero, too. He took 3 years off of disability while his leg and hip was amputated, but that didn't stop him from returning to go back and challenge those 8th graders. So, and this is my granddaughter, Acadia Demlow, and I get to see her at school all the time, and I just treasure doing that. And then this is my daughter, Erin Demlow, and she's a former teacher, and she's always my supporter. And I especially want to thank Mrs. Maynard, Mrs. Raymond, and Mrs. Ruby. I mean, this is so nice, but I can't tell you what a joy it is for me to work with these kids. I mean, my husband, he won't take time to, there's other things on the agenda, but I go home and tell him about the wonderful things the students do. Of course, I can't name the students. I respect their privacy, but I get to be a part of a tremendous number of children's lives, one-on-one or two-on-two, and it's the greatest gift. So this is so special, and what a remarkable woman. But really, the gift and the joy is really all mine. I love my job at Quail Run. I really do. I say that, but I really mean that. So thank you very much, and thank you for the United Parents Council. I'm sure there's other great volunteers because I know some of them at Quail Run too. So thank you for choosing me, and I am really grateful. Thank you.
photo with our family real quick? No, you get to go slow. Please go slow. All right, right here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Big smile. Thank you. Congratulations.
Next, we have the United Parent Council staff and teacher recognitions. UPC honors PV school teachers and staff members annually through its Teacher Staff Appreciation Program. For a presentation, please direct your attention to the video screens.
Hello, I'm Troy Bales, proud superintendent of PV Schools. This winter, I read a great book entitled Leading with Gratitude. It reminded me of the opportunity to extend my appreciation, my thanks, and my gratitude for the people that make this district amazing. At this time, we're going to celebrate our United Parent Council teachers and staff recognition, and I am so thrilled to extend that thank you to those and those who nominated them, because you go above and beyond, and we are grateful and thankful for all that you do to support the students of PV Schools. Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Susan Matura, President of the Paradise Valley Unified School District Governing Board. Whether in a classroom, at a school site, or across the district, each of you does something every day to make the lives of our students better. On behalf of the board, thank you for being a part of the PV Schools family, and thank you for making a positive difference in our students' lives.
Hi, I'm Kia Karada, United Parent Council President this year. Thank you to the amazing teachers and staff members for all you do for our students every day across this district. This year, the annual Teacher Staff Appreciation Program received a record number of submissions. Over 700 different teachers and staff were recognized for their exemplary activities this year. To all of our teachers and staff members, thank you for all that you do for our students.
And the last recognition this evening is our administrators leaving PV schools. We'd like to acknowledge these administrators who have dedicated their careers to student success right here in Paradise. Throughout their time in the district, they have made a difference in the lives of both students and staff. This evening, Dr. Bales and supervising assistant superintendents will have the honor of leading this recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Droege. President Matura, governing board members, cabinet guests, it's my pleasure to recognize these retiring administrators with deep appreciation and gratitude. Our first honoree is Dr. Dina Bruyas. Dina and I go back about a quarter of a century when I was in an HR office in a different district and hired her as a kindergarten bilingual teacher. And so it's been my pleasure to watch her grow and become such a prominent, recognized national speaker, author, and publisher. So Dr. Corson, would you help me recognize Dr. Bruyas?
It's my honor to recognize Dr. Bruyas, who has served as the Director of Gifted Education in PV Schools for the past 16 years. During this time, she has developed and supported a continuum of gifted services from preschool through high school. Dina's team has worked with our professional development department to provide learning opportunities to all teachers in the district. She has also worked closely with United Parent Council Gifted Parent Liaisons to create Parent Speaker Series, bringing both local and national experts to present to PV's parents at least 6 times a year. During her tenure, Dr. Bruyas has served for 8 years on the National Association of Gifted Children's Board of Directors as the school district representative and currently as governance secretary. She has also published 8 books in the field of gifted education, 3 of which became bestsellers. Dina attributes her accomplishments in the field to the opportunities and experiences gained from serving our gifted learners in Paradise Valley. We are honored tonight to be recognizing a leader in PV and in her field. Congratulations, Dr. Bruyas.
Dr. Bruyas, would you please stand? Dr. Bruyas, do you have any family you'd like to introduce? Thank you. Dr. Jornstedt, thank you for sharing your wife with us the last 16 years. Next is Dr. Mitch Von Echten. Dr. Von Echten retired mid-year and is already out of the country celebrating his retirement. He's unfortunately not here with us tonight, but a man of deepest integrity that I've ever met, an honest man that I've enjoyed working with in different positions over the years. Mr. Long, would you help me recognize Dr. Von Echten?
Certainly. Dr. Von Echten devoted many years to PV, and we are sorry to see him go, but very happy for the next chapter in his life. We are so thankful for his dedication in the role as Director of Student Support Services. The last few years have been tough due to the pandemic, and Dr. Von Echten helped provide us guidance as we navigated in uncharted waters. Mitch became an expert in COVID-19 mitigation strategies and processes and really stepped forward as a district leader to make sense of it all. That was never in the original job description. What we can appreciate about Mitch is that he processes all angles, stays calm, and is always ready to assist in collaborating on a solution. This calm and steady leadership will be missed. Mitch is currently traveling abroad and could not be here this evening, but congratulations, Mitch, and I hope you're having a fantastic time when you hear this.
Our next retiree, Phil Haradel, inspired my own son to go into engineering. And Mr. Long, would you help me recognize Phil?
Mr. Haradel's background is quite impressive. As a Navy underwater welder, he welded in the ocean off the coast of Iceland. Later, he became a project manager for a civil engineering firm and built lots of roads and freeways around Arizona, which led him to teaching for the next 29 years. Those life experiences made him a natural choice to be a part of PV's CREST program for 5 years as a teacher before becoming the CREST coordinator 7 years ago. He has been instrumental in helping CREST become the most prestigious high school STEM program in the Valley, as well as leading district efforts to promote STEM K-12 across our district. Congratulations on your retirement, Mr. Haradel.
Our next honoree failed at retirement the first time and came to us and has served with very strong, calm leadership as a mentor to students, to teachers at Greenway Middle School. Mr. Long, would you help me recognize Mr. Jeff Quisberg?
Mr. Quisberg has a long, distinguished career in education, and we were blessed to have him for a short time here in PV. Mr. Quisberg was not afraid to take on the challenges of Greenway Middle School and worked hard to begin building a school community that is now ready to focus on school improvement. Mr. Quisberg inspects what he expects, but does so in such a manner where you want to do your best to make a difference. Thank you, Mr. Quisberg, for your dedicated service and willingness to make a difference every day in the lives of our students at Greenway.
And our last retiree, Diane Silvestri, has served as principal at Sweetwater. She is one of a kind. She's not here with us, I'm sure, tonight because it wouldn't be her style. They definitely broke the mold when they built a place for Diane, and she will definitely call a spade a spade. Mr. Long, would you help me recognize Diane Silvestri?
Very interesting on your selection of words. I start off with, Miss Silvestri is one of a kind. Diane is one of the first administrators I met when I first arrived in PV. She immediately made an impression. She always shares what she is thinking and will speak the truth. You immediately know that she will always ensure that students are her primary focus. When you visit Sweetwater, you know that it is a special place. That does not happen by accident. It begins with the leader. When we were looking to combine PV Connect and PV Online, it was Diane's forward thinking that led to Sweetwater being selected to house those programs and her branding it as a school of alternatives. Her positive interactions with students are incredible and amazing to observe. Sweetwater students would say Ms. Silvestri can be tough, but is fair, that she can be direct, but her directness is given with love because she wants you to be successful. Diane, your leadership will be greatly missed, and I personally will miss your sense of humor. Congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you again soon, hopefully.
And those are our honorees for retirees tonight. Superintendent comments.
Oh, no. All right. Next on the agenda is call to the public. We are about to convene call to the public, which allows the public the opportunity to address the board. Although state law does not require that we hold a call to the public, we have chosen to do so because we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community about concerns and issues. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. Call to the public is not designed to be a discussion. Due to Arizona open meeting law, the governing board cannot respond to, discuss, or take action on items brought up during this time. However, staff members may be directed to get back to you to address individual concerns. Additionally, I want to remind you that in lieu of speaking tonight, you may choose to submit written comments to the board by completing a public comment form on the district homepage. All comments submitted by noon today have been provided to each governing board member and to the superintendent's office in advance of tonight's meeting. Tonight, we have 19 people who have submitted comment cards prior to the start of the meeting. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for remarks. Those 12 who have asked to speak on agenda items will be recognized at the appropriate time during the meeting. As a reminder, the point of this and every board meeting is to accomplish the business at hand and to be able to do so openly and collaboratively. All in attendance are expected to observe our meeting rules as well as rules of politeness and decorum so that we may serve as an example to our students that issues can be discussed in a respectful and civil manner. Please state your first and last name when you come to the podium. Our first speaker is Haradel, and our next speaker will be Melissa Schwartz.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Haradel. Good evening, President Matura, Governing Board, Cabinet, and Dr. Bales. If I could have Dr. Dina Brias come up, please. Pretty, please. So I am currently treasurer of United Parent Council, which is a group that's been around for about 50 years. But we wanted to highlight tonight because over the past 16 years that Dr. Bruez has been with our district, we have developed quite a partnership between her gifted education department and us. Over the years, these programs have changed. They've become more robust with her direction. And we have created lots of parent presentations, as was mentioned earlier. So in addition to our parent and family presentations, the presenters often go into the classroom, work directly with some of our teachers, and then lead workshops after school. We've been so lucky to learn the latest information on teaching gifted students, offering us a broader understanding of just what goes on in their heads and tools to help us parent them more effectively.
Melissa Schwartz.
Good evening, President Ventura, Governing Board, Dr. Bales, and Dr. Briez. I'm Melissa Schwartz. I'm the current gifted chair for the PV United Parent Council, and I'm the parent of 2 students. Between the 2, they've gone through every gifted offering you have created: the cluster program, honors, self-contained gifted, DLC, and now CREST. In 2017, I started to assist at the gifted presentations, recording and posting them to the UPC Facebook page. This was before Zoom, but we realized not many people were able to attend our evening presentations because of many other commitments. And we found very quickly we reached out and expanded to many more families, both nearby, districts nearby, and actually across the country. Within a short time, we found hundreds of people were finding those presentations. Dr. Briez, over these years, you've provided UPC and PV parents the opportunity to expand our knowledge, to learn the latest in gifted education, and often most important, to relieve the anxieties many new parents to gifted students go through. One of the presentations she would schedule probably almost every year was, "They say my child is gifted, now what?" Thank you, Dr. Briez, for creating an incredible gifted program, nurturing so many talented teachers, and providing a playground for so many gifted students to grow and expand their knowledge. On behalf of United Parent Council and parents of thousands of gifted students you have touched over the years, thank you for giving us access to some of the brightest presenters on interacting with gifted children. We would like to present you with this award. Engraved on it, it says, "In appreciation of your collaboration and advocacy for over a decade to educate the parents of gifted students in PV schools." Thank you so much.
Up next is Shannon Leonard, and next will be Sandra Christensen.
Good evening. My name is Shannon Leonard. My daughter Ever is a 2nd grader at Wildfire Elementary. I've come here tonight to speak about their behavior program called Make Your Day. 2 weeks ago, for the very first time, Ever did not make her day. While the details of this are actually valuable in revealing the obvious flaws of the program, the effects of it on my daughter are what really got my attention. Ever had so much fear and anxiety in the aftermath of the experience. Her anticipation in returning to school the next day was palpable. This is not like her. Through tears, she begged me to let her stay home from school. She begged me to pick her up early. She implored me that she couldn't go back because now she was one of the bad kids. I was so shocked and saddened by how deeply this affected her. Unfortunately, her distress went on the next morning. No matter how much I tried to explain that it was okay, the feeling she had was otherwise. She felt shame. She felt humiliation. And in her core, she felt bad. In this moment, I saw very clearly the effects Make Your Day has on children and how deeply flawed it is. I'd like to ask if you're familiar with the work of Brené Brown. She's an American research professor and is the leading authority on shame, having researched it extensively for well over a decade. Of shame, she has said, "We live in a world where most people still subscribe to the belief that shame is a good tool for keeping people in line. Not only is this wrong, but it's dangerous. Shame is highly correlated with addiction, violence, aggression, depression, eating disorders, and bullying." Make Your Day is inadvertently a shaming program. It's not the program recommended by district, state, or national level. Why is Wildfire still using this program? Our principal has suggested the program may need modifications, but I respectfully disagree. Shaming children into submission is wrong. It's outdated, and there is research on how damaging it is. Why is Wildfire still using a program that's negative in nature? It's reminiscent of the dunce cap days, which are now considered archaic and deeply misguided. I spend a lot of time instilling in my daughter that energy is everything and that we get that which we focus on. Focus on something negative and you'll get more of it. In turn, focus on the positive and you'll get more of that. So why are we attempting to curb negative behaviors with negatively based measures? By not using a positively based program, in effect, the school is working against my own efforts as a parent. The program has only been, the program has only been reviewed once in 17 years at Wildfire, and those results were inconclusive. There is no existing data to show its effectiveness. Programs such as this are expected to be reviewed by a school every 5 years. As well, the public nature of the program and the fact that students are allowed to chime in and raise concern on other students' points is disquieting. Can you not see the pending disasters this might encourage, especially for girls as they progress into the 5th and 6th grades? I do, and
We have Sandra Christensen and then Eddie Jackson.
My name is Sandra Christensen, President Matura, Governing Board members, Dr. Bales and Cabinet. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I would like to discuss the Horizon Choir program and just the wonderful achievements they've made and what a great impact they've made on my son's life. They had their first annual pop show this past Tuesday. Just one word, phenomenal. They had 2 shows back to back, and those kids were jumping around and doing their stuff. I mean, it was just so wonderful. I'm really grateful to the students, teachers, parents, and community members that came alongside each other to make that happen. Ms. Clue and Ms. Winsler have developed a world-class choir program, and they continue to up the ante every year. The choir presidents do a great job organizing massive amounts of volunteers to pull off this quality of show. Mr. Laney, your wife did an amazing job with uniforms from Elton John to Queen to Lady Gaga. It was wonderful. The tech crew, they live streamed the event and recorded the events. My son's elderly grandma was able to she tried to log in and she couldn't. So one of the presidents, Miss Allison Failberg, was able to send her a link right away and help her just in time to see my son perform. So I was really grateful to her for that. In closing, one size doesn't fit all in education, especially in the high schools. And these 2 years have been really rather difficult with COVID. Each school has its own personality where they have different programs where they shine. And so I'm grateful for STEAM, which includes the arts. I'm also grateful for school choice, allowing my son to participate in a nationally recognized choir program rather than the school that he can be bused to. Finally, this choir program shows the importance of students, educators, parents, and community members coming alongside each other to really make something world-class. So I'm truly grateful for this program. Thank you.
Eddie Jackson and then Lily Gresham.
Eddie Jackson, good evening. I want to talk about the district's lobbyist efforts that we have here. And for those that don't know, we have a CLN committee that lobbies on behalf of the district. And unfortunately, we had to request the members, the agendas, and the minutes through a public records requests because they're not readily available on the website. Through those requests, we finally found out who the members were. And we found out that when the meetings were, because they're not published. So then I tried to attend a meeting on May 10th, and I left work and I came here to find out that the meeting had been canceled. So then I contacted Dr. Bales and I said, when's the next meeting? And he informed me that this is a superintendent's committee and therefore not open, subject to open meeting laws. I'm not sure that's the kind of district that we want here, where we're closing out parents and the public from finding out what our lobbyists are doing. So I had to submit another public records request to try to get more information and find out what our lobbyists are doing. And Dr. Bales, you told me that we did not lobby as a district against the biological boys playing in girls' sports. My daughter is a student athlete here at Pinnacle who plays softball. And I learned today through that public records request that Demena, our lobbyist arm that we're paying for with M&O funds, which come out of our classroom, they did, in fact, offer a position of opposition against that bill in that public records document, and that bill was later signed by the governor. That document was dated March 11th, and that bill was signed by the governor on March 30th. I'm asking you to open up these meetings to the public, and I'm asking the board, if we don't open up these meetings to the public, I ask you to rescind that $200,000 authorization and bring all lobbyist efforts back to the board where it can be handled with transparency here at board meetings. Parents deserve to know that when you're lobbying against parents and parents' rights, we deserve to know that. Thank you.
We have Lily Gresham, and then our final speaker for Call to the Public will be Barbara Jennings.
Hi, my name is Lily Gresham, and I'd like to start by saying thank you to the board members, Dr. Bales, the UPC, and all the teachers for all their hard work this year. It's been a tough one. I believe in public education that serves all students. In 2019, the U.S. Census Bureau review placed Arizona in 49th place for school funding, ranked 47th for least educated, ranked 48th for school quality, and our Arizona state government spends less in education per capita than any other state. And they have passed many laws that ban books and curriculum for political gain. Book banning, I think, is harmful. When we ban books, we compromise our kids' education and development. Book banning is the most widespread form of censorship. The primary function of education is teaching students how to think for themselves. Book banning restricts information and discourages freedom of thought. Children prepare for adulthood in the classroom with books and through education. And all students should see representation in the books offered at school, including Black, Brown, and LGBTQ. Reading is supposed to expand ideas and thoughts, not confirm our biases. Books are supposed to inspire us to engage in debate and exchange of ideas. A truly great school curriculum and library would have material and books on the shelves that represent everyone and support everyone trying to educate themselves, from homeschooling Christians to LGBTQ youths. Even books that may be disturbing or explicit should not be banned because it belittles the painful experiences of the subject matter, content, characters, and/or authors, especially of historical and true events and experiences. It then marginalizes those societies. Banning books is not about protecting children, it's about discrimination. The best way to protect our children is to educate them. And you don't have to be a historian to know that the people banning books are never the good guys. And if you're afraid that reading a book might change someone's thinking, you're not afraid of books, you're afraid of thinking. That's all I got.
Barbara Jennings? Is Barbara Jennings here?
Good evening. My name is Barbara Jennings. I also would like to bring up the point that Mr. Jackson brought up in regards to our funding. About a month ago at the school board meeting, a teacher came up here and she said that she was dissatisfied with her salary. They weren't happy with their contract and she wasn't sure who to blame. But then she figured out it was to blame the politicians. 55% of our state's budget goes to education. And I think it's time that we need some transparency in where all that money is going. Parents are teachers' most loyal advocates. We appreciate the good teachers and what they do for our kids. It is a tough job and parents are aware of that. But we also want it to go back to teaching, not critical race theory, not social emotional learning, not the transgender dysphoria that's being pushed in our schools. It is harming our children. And as far as banning books, 2 years ago, they were banning Dr. Seuss. Where was all this uproar? Everybody wanted to get rid of poor Dr. Seuss because they said, his books somehow had racial discrimination in them. But now we have books that have rape, bestiality, so many inappropriate subjects, and parents should have the right whether they want their children to be exposed to that. It's not about banning books. It's giving parents the right to expose their kids to what they think is appropriate. And some of these books are not. And the ones that talk about bestiality, there was a girl arrested in Florida, a high schooler, for having sex with her dog and posting it online. She was arrested, and you wonder where these thoughts come from. How do they get these horrible ideas? Well, some of them may come from books that promote bestiality in there. I've been in the school district for a very long time. My kids are very spaced apart, and our schools, the curriculum that is coming into this school district, I don't know how any of you can be proud of it. And the fact that you did give $200,000 to lobbyists, that's not only a slap in the face for us who pay these taxes, but also to these teachers who deserve more salaries. The way you guys are spending your money is not about our children. It is not about educating them. You guys are falling under some kind of political platform that we see what is happening on the federal level. All this transgenderism, they're promoting kids to change their bodies. You cannot undo that. That is already done. They're promoting hormone blockers and this is being promoted by our schools, and it should not be.
Next on the agenda is Dr. Bales and superintendent comments.
Thank you, President Machura. The 2021 school year is winding down, and we are only 1 week away from sending our 2022 graduates off to their next endeavor. I'd like to take a moment tonight as our mission moment, to recognize the culmination of high-quality instruction, meaningful educational opportunities, dynamic learning experiences, most importantly, the hard work and dedication of our students. Whether their path is college, career, military, or community, on behalf of the board and all employees of PV Schools, we wish all of our graduates, more than 2,300 of them, very much success. And congratulations to the parents of these graduates. We are grateful for you choosing PV Schools to serve your family. Thank you, and best wishes. Our sixth 2022 National Merit finalist advanced to the finalist stage. Congratulations to Emma Gerard and Chloe Rosinski from Paradise Valley High School, Aditi Bechtel and Michael Stelford from Pinnacle High School, and JC Cochell and Boaz Goldberg from Shadow Mountain High School. Congratulations. More than 15,000 semifinalists named in September 2022 have met all the requirements to advance to finalist standing in the competition, and all finalists are considered for national merit scholarships. Next, I'd like to recognize a couple of interim administrators that are parting with us. The next two administrators came out of retirement to help students, teachers, administrators in our district in two specific needs. Both took a break from retirement life to lead in one of the most difficult times to lead in public education. As a result of a professional connection with Dr. Holmes, Terry Kellen served as interim principal at Sonoran Sky this year. Dr. Jarris, would you help me thank Terry Kellen?
Yes, as you know, in the middle of June last year, we were faced with the need for a principal at Sonoran Sky Elementary School. This was just 3 weeks prior to the school office staff returning from summer break, and Mrs. Kellen graciously put a pause on her retirement from a neighboring district to help us out. She not only took on the challenge of being an interim principal in a new school district, she was doing so at a school that had an entirely new office staff. So they were all learning it together. She quickly fell back into her principal shoes, filling the many roles that principals often do around campus. And I know this from personal experience because it seems like every time I called her, I could hear students in the background as she was covering recess duty or drop off and pick up after school. So her years of experience provided wonderful guidance and support to her administrative team, helped mentor our newly appointed principal there, Michelle Fowler, and helped the school through through several challenges this year. Her efforts and presence are greatly appreciated, and we wish her the best as she restarts her retirement.
Thank you, Terry Kellen. The next administrator served PV Schools for many years, retired, and he has been our ace in the bullpen, standing tall above all others. And with his wife's permission, Craig Lawlem stepped in to serve as assistant principal at Horizon High School. Mr. Long, would you help me recognize Mr. Lawlem?
Certainly. Mr. Lawlem was a great addition to the Horizon team this past semester. Horizon had some challenges this year, and Craig added stability and calmness to the campus. His strong leadership skills and ability to mentor those around him assisted everyone in moving forward and focusing on student needs. I first met Craig when he assisted us with PV Online and PV Connect at the beginning of the pandemic, where once again his calm leadership skills were displayed. PV is grateful for his willingness to just step in. Craig wanted to be here tonight, but he and his wife are renewing their wedding vows after 40 years of marriage, and his wife is taking him to an unknown location to celebrate. He only knows it's a 6-hour drive. That's love and trust. Happy anniversary, Craig, and thank you for your continued service to PV.
Yes, thank you, Craig and Kathy. Lastly, allow me to express my deep appreciation and thanks to our community for support. There were several items approved in the consent portion of tonight's agenda that will take place this summer. The support of our voters provides us the opportunity to create safe, engaging, and technology-rich learning environments. Painting, remodels, furniture, and more are all contributing to the success of our students, offering them updated spaces to collaborate, learn, and grow. So thank you, PV Schools voters. And those are my comments for tonight, President Ventura.
All right, next on the agenda is items for approval. Dr. Bales.
President Ventura, governing board members, cabinet guests, in this item we recommend a new principal for Hidden Hills Elementary School. A familiar name and face, serving PV Schools previously in a variety of roles. Filling in for Dr. Holmes tonight, Ms. Berrigan, would you please present?
I would be happy to, and in return for this favor from Dr. Holmes, he'll be presenting the budget next month on my behalf. He's just been notified. Dr. Drew Davis is currently an assistant superintendent in the Buckeye Elementary School District with 26 years of service in public education, including 19 years in various leadership positions. He earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in secondary education from NAU, a Master of Education degree in guidance counseling from ASU, and a Doctorate of Education in educational leadership from NAU. If approved, he will receive salary and benefits in accordance with the PVP bargaining agreement. We recommend you approve Dr. Davis to be the next principal at Hidden Hills Elementary School.
May I please have a motion to approve the recommendation to hire Dr. Drew Davis for the position of principal of Hidden Hills Elementary School as presented?
Yeah, so moved. Happy to have you back.
Any member wishing to make a comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Welcome back.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Welcome back to Paradise. Next on the agenda is approval of ASBA issues for the Arizona School Board Association Legislative Committee's consideration. And so we have, what we'll do here, we want to go through, and our task tonight is to come up with 5 top priorities. And so we have the current priority issues. They're kind of bullet pointed, and if members of the board have some of their top priority items, we can discuss those and come up with the 5 that we want to present to ASBA as our top 5 priorities for this next year. Does anyone have one that they want to begin with? Mrs. Greenberg?
Sure. I mean, there are many. I still believe that the first bullet point on maximizing state funding for nationally and locally competitive salaries to attract, recruit, and retain talented teachers and staff, including support for the AZ Teachers Academy and efforts to increase the diversity of the teaching workforce and for difficult to fill positions, should always be a priority. So I would certainly tag that one with a bullet.
Okay, Mr. Laney, do you have one that you would propose to be one of our top 5?
Yeah, I have a few comments about it. In my visits with all the principals, a few of them, I spoke with them about this, and a lot of people may not realize this, but I actually read the law, and corporal punishment was still on the books. So paddling, which I was intimately familiar with as a kid and had many visits with principals. And so I'm glad that that is in here, that they're moving to remove that because it's not effective anyway. Didn't work on me. And as far as what I would like to see changed on this, the improve outcomes, I would like that instead of to say outcomes, I would rather have it say improve opportunity or efforts instead of outcomes, because that's focusing on the result, in my opinion, instead of the effort to get there.
Okay, do you have one that you would propose that one of these items would be one that we would say PV would ask them to be saying one of the top priorities that we have, as opposed to changing wording, because this would be a committee of ASBA that would kind of fine tune this, but they want to hear from us to know what are our top 5 priorities so they can know, they can kind of aggregate it with the other districts and see what kind of rises to the tops to become the top priorities.
Yeah, local control.
Local control, okay. Is there a specific within local control? The top one, is that ensure local control and flexibility in managing funds, or? You can check and,
I'm
or
reading it. The last item on it.
okay. Oppose any legislation that intends to lessen or curtail for local control, okay? All right. Mrs. Case, do you have any that you think rise to the top?
Yes, Jill gives us, Sean doesn't, Jill gives us great financial happenings from our district. And I believe all public money spent on education should be equally described no matter the educational institution. If they get public monies, it should be required to have accountability and transparency. And I believe students would be the beneficiaries of that, because so many times owners of a charter school can pay themselves a great salary and not pay their teachers and not put it in the classroom. And so I would like that to require comparative classroom spending audits for school districts and all other institutions that accept public funds, and define classroom spending as both instructional spending and student support spending, and then enforce financial requirements and seek recovery of improperly received and or expended public funds by charter and private schools and organizations. I think we need to know where the money is going. When it says it's for education, how are they really spending it? Because they might be doing a good job, but we're not sure. And they might be, I've heard some horror stories that scare me. And I would like to protect all children in education and not just in school districts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Case. Mrs. Bacon, do you have any that rise to the top?
Well, they've taken most of mine already. So, but the one that I think a revised school finance formula would be helpful in terms of providing some stability that's not dependent on the general fund, but comes from other sources, so that we're not constantly unsure what's going to happen. It talks about capital funding needing to be consistent with the constitutional requirement of a general and uniform public school system, and then addressing the unique needs. And the legislature did do a little bit of something on this last year in terms of financial needs of students serving students in poverty and rural and remote schools. But there's way more to be done with that. And then funding any distance learning that's happening at 100%. So those are the components of that particular item, and that's something that rises to the top for me.
Okay, Mrs. Greenberg, did you have any others besides the one you?
Well, you haven't
I
weighed
haven't
in
gone
yet.
yet. Okay.
So,
Julie took mine, the finance formula. I also, I think it's very important under the adequately funding section on the right-hand side, the third bullet down is conduct an exceptional student services cost study to ensure students, including in rural or remote areas, receive adequate funding for the actual cost of their services, including early intervention. So that was one that I thought rose to the top. Another one that in the funding side, on the left-hand side, to index district additional assistance funding for inflation. I thought that was really important because we hit this every year where our costs go up and our the minimum wage goes up by the inflation index, and then yet we are capped on to 2% no matter what the index is. And there's a lot of other funding that is out of our control, and yet we're capped at the 2%. So seeing that would match up. I believe charter schools get the full inflation rate and are not capped at the 2%. And so allowing us to have that same rate of inflation, I think that's an important one as well. Mrs. Greenberg, did you have more?
okay, if you want me to weigh in on one more. Under the improve outcomes for all students, there's actually two I kind of like here, but I mean, we're over 5 at this point. Towards the bottom of the first column, support policy that recognizes, respects, and promotes teaching as a profession. And then the top of the next column is state standardized testing shall not be used for any purpose other than a year-over-year measurement of student growth in the tested subject. Last year, the committee added rethink and redefine the role and purpose of standardized testing and develop meaningful assessments and other measurable outcomes. And I think in total, that's a good one to keep.
Okay, does anyone else have one that they didn't share yet that would rise to the top? Okay, so right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 right now. So we need to cut these in half. So let's see what we can do to try to get down to our top 5. So I will review what our top 10 are. Page 1, we have the top 2 bullet points, maximize state funding, and then revise school finance formula. Further down, we have index district additional assistance, funding for inflation, and then the exceptional student services cost study was also in that section. Under the next section, we have the last bullet point, oppose any legislation that intends to lessen or curtail the legal authority of local school boards, including their authority to approve curriculum. Under improve outcomes for all students, we have support policy that recognizes, respects, and promotes teaching as a profession. And then the top bullet on the second side, state standardized testing used for year-over-year measurement and not for other purposes. And then requiring public accountability and the taxpayer dollars spent. We had established the top bullet point, establish financial academic transparency for all institutions. The third and fourth bullet point, require comparative classroom spending for school districts and enforce financial requirements and seek recovery of improperly received public funds. Any suggestions on grouping those, or we don't want to cut? We could, do you think if we just put down the requiring public accountability and said that that is a top priority of our district, and that would kind of, as opposed to pulling out the bullet points, because kind of seemed like all of them were important, and we just give that overall one as opposed to pulling out a bullet point and having that count as one of ours? Does that seem like a?
You're talking about the last section, right?
Yeah, just making that be equal to one item.
No, because I don't like the 5th item on there.
Okay. All right. So is there one of the public accountability taxpayer dollars that stands out among the 3 that maybe we want to say is our biggest, one that we think is the biggest priority for our school district? The transparency for all institutions?
Yeah.
Seeking recovery of improperly received funds. Any thoughts on that? Oh, the first one?
Yeah, we were all nodding our heads on that
On the
one.
first one? Okay. All right. So we like that one. Okay. In the improve outcomes for all students, we had the 2 in there. And preserve and strengthen local control, we had the top, the last bullet point there, just sticking on this page for now for us. Is there one that stands out in the improve outcomes section that maybe we think, I mean, we could keep both and cut from others too? Any thoughts on that, Anne?
Well, last year we liked the state standardized testing one, so
Okay.
that seems to stand out more than the other.
Okay. All right. Is there agreement on that? The standardized testing to be used for growth purposes only? Mrs. Case?
That first one, the compulsory attendance age from 16 to 18, haven't the Indian nations asked for that continuously? I'd love to support them on that, but.
Thoughts on that?
I mean, it is one that gets discussed every
I know.
delegate assembly, and it tends to be supported. I think, I don't remember how many years ago, maybe 3 or 4, adding the word compulsory sort of helped, because there were a lot of folks who were like, well, what about the kids who graduated at 16? It's like, well, that's the point. They've graduated. But compulsory, yeah, the districts on tribal lands have tended to request this. They're not the only ones. I don't see it going away, so quite honestly, but
Is that a really problem? Is that a problem with our district though? Or is it more, so that's why I don't think we would need to support that, because I don't see that as a problem with our district. Unfortunately, it is with the reservations, and I understand why. But I don't support compulsory anything, so.
Okay, so if we're looking more towards things that we find most important for our district. then
Yeah, and
that would-
I think we had 1, 2, 3, 4 in the funding. So it seems to me that we should take at least a couple from there.
Yeah,
Since that seems to be where we all focused on and so that may help us kind of.
okay, let's move over to funding and we'll come back to we'll start here. Okay, so on the funding side, we had maximized state funding for competitive salaries, revised school finance formula, both Julie and I had put that one on there, Mrs. Bacon and I, for dedicated funding sources. And then I had put out the DAA funding for inflation and the exceptional student services. So mine were a lot in there. Thoughts on those?
President Matura might just offer that the ADE has engaged in an exceptional student services study. So while it's not driven by the legislature, it at least is started and under an Heinfeld and Meach accounting firm.
Okay, great, thank you. So we can look at that as being in process, so that doesn't have to be one of our top priorities, so appreciate that. Thank you, Dr. Bales. Of the other three, is there one that stands out or two that stand out? Thoughts? Ms. Greenberg?
I think revising the school finance formula is always a good one to support, particularly the trying to find a stable, dedicated revenue source. So
Okay,
I would go with that one.
Okay, seeing lots of head nods there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how many years ago it was, but many. Dr. Skidmore proposed a priority of minimum starting salary of $50,000 for every single teacher in Arizona, minimum starting salary. We were before our time because that's now happening in some states across the nation. And I think we really have to pay attention to our staff and teachers. And I think that has to be I would like to see that first one be one of ours.
Okay, do we have agreement on that? Okay, all right, we have three.
And I like the, on this page, I like the inflation index.
Okay.
Which number is
Do we want that to be, we had, okay, so that's number 4. All right, guys, we're almost there. So now we have local control and the outcomes. The state standardized testing, I think we landed on that one, and then oppose any legislation for the local control, that would oppose local control.
I mean, I think the opposed legislation regarding local control is part of our legislative agenda. So I think it would make sense to support that one.
Okay, are we all good on that one? Okay, all right. So we have our top 5. I'm going to ask Mrs. Greenberg on this. They're asking for a rationale then behind each one. Or you think that they're kind of self-explanatory because they're already in here? So I think we're good on that. They will understand where we're coming from. So I appreciate that. We also have an opportunity to add any additional items for consideration if there's anything that someone feels was left off of what we were going through to pick our top 5 from. Was there anything that stood out as something additional we would like the committee to look at? Mrs. Greenberg?
Well, I like what Mrs. Bacon was just talking about establishing a minimum statewide salary. I think we tried it before. It didn't happen, but different committees.
We tried it. We've tried it a couple of times. They haven't taken it.
Yeah, but different committees now.
Yeah, that's true.
That's something we want to try again? Okay.
They
establish.
might be forced to because teachers can't afford. They might be forced to do that.
Yeah, so asking the state to set a minimum standard.
Well, not asking them to set the minimum. I would prefer that we name a number because they might set a minimum of 35,000, which we don't want, right? That's not the direction we're looking at. So, and you do have to question with inflation and all the things that are happening, is 50,000 enough? So maybe we say 50,000 or higher.
Okay. All right. Is everyone in agreement for asking for additional items for consideration would be, let me see wording here. Mrs. Greenberg, do you have an idea for wording your wordsmith for what we want to officially propose as that?
I mean, we could, yeah, they use establish a minimum statewide salary of 50,000 or higher for all certified teachers, certified staff, certified staff. Annual salary for all certified staff.
Okay, so I have that establish a minimum statewide salary of at least $50,000 for all certified staff. Okay, and then we can provide a rationale for self-explanatory there.
Self-explanatory.
Okay, excellent.
Just 2 words, teacher shortage.
Uh-huh, all right, perfect, I'll do that. Anyone else, or do you think we're good with our list here? Okay, all right, so now I'm going to read this back. So, may I please have a motion to submit the following issues to the ASBA Legislative Committee? The top 5 priorities would be maximize state funding for nationally and locally competitive salaries. We have that written down, the first bullet point. The second bullet point, revise the school finance formula, and the items below that would be our number 2. The index district additional assistance for funding inflation would be our 3rd. Oppose any legislation that intends to lessen or curtail legal authority of local school boards. Bullet point, that will be our number 4. And our number 5 will be establish financial and academic transparency for all institutions and individuals that accept public funds. Additionally, with an item for consideration, to establish a minimum statewide salary of at least $50,000 for all certified staff with the rationale teacher shortage.
Can I just amend that last one, 50,000 or higher?
50. So instead of at least $50,000?
Oh, no, at least fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't hear the at least, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
I'm not questioning Mrs. Greenberg's editorial
I'm not sure I
skills.
wrote down exactly what she said, so we're hoping there. And so may I have a motion for that, to approve that?
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions?
Mrs. Matura, despite the fact that I don't need to because there is no conflict, I am going to abstain from voting on this issue because it is related to Arizona School Boards Association, who employs me.
Okay, motion passes with 4 ayes and 1 abstention. Next on the agenda is approval of delegates to Arizona School Boards Association 2022 Delegate Assembly, County Meeting, and the Annual Business Meeting. Do we have anyone who would like to make a nomination suggestion on who might fill either role?
May I nominate you, Mrs. Mature?
For which one? And I know
For the delegate?
for the delegate. Okay. I will accept that nomination unless anyone else would prefer. Okay. And now we, and now we need an alternate delegate. Perhaps Mrs. Greenberg would be willing to fill that role. Okay. All right. Okay, so I think I have our motion here. May I please have a motion to appoint Susan Matura as the official delegate and Ann Greenberg as the alternate delegate to represent Paradise Valley Unified School District's governing board members at the Arizona School Boards Association 2022 Delegate Assembly County Meeting and the annual business meeting?
So moved.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I also will abstain on this.
Okay, we have one abstention, 4 ayes, motion passes. All right, next on the agenda is revisions to the Family Student Handbook for 2022 and 2023. Mr. Bales, Dr. Bales, excuse me.
President Matura, governing board members, cabinet, and guests, tonight we present the committee work for revisions to the Family Student Handbook for 2022-2023. Mr. Long will present for second reading and recommendation for approval.
Good evening, President Matura, governing board members, and Dr. Bales. Tonight is the second reading for you to consider changes made to the Family Student Handbook for the 2022-23 school year. The following changes have been made to the Family Student Handbook from the first reading. We have added language to the parent resources paragraph on page 17 that states, most schools have social workers, social emotional learning specialists, and counselors available on site. Additionally, a link was inserted into this section that will direct the user to a provided list of suggested resources that are organized around the following categories: crisis resources, emergency resources, food and clothing resources, and parent-family support. This link will be made active when the district's new website is launched in June. An additional change was made on page 26 under the heading Off-Campus Misconduct. We have added the word unlawful to eliminate an ARS conflict. With those changes, we recommend approval.
May I have a motion to approve the revisions to the Family Student Handbook for 2022-2023?
So moved.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Laney?
Just like to thank you for making that amendment and making it in compliance with the law. It may seem, if you read it, I just suggest the members of the public just go and read the law. It has, if you're thinking it has to do with kids possessing firearms illegally, it has nothing to do with that. It's more about competitions and traveling to competitions and stuff like that. So thank you.
Thank you.
I also would like to thank you for making the update to the resources for families. And I also would like to thank the committee who worked so hard. And now we know who one is.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is the approval of advanced placement literature list final recommendations. Dr. Bales.
President Matura, governing board members, cabinet, and guests, tonight we present the committee work for additions to the advanced placement literature list. With more than 100 books previously approved for 11th and 12th graders to read in AP classes, and only a handful or so labeled sensitive, tonight's list for approval is in addition to the existing list. We are a public school district with a diverse board and even more diverse community. I appreciate the work of this committee to provide parents information about the literature in these AP classes. Based on the board's input last month, tonight's second reading and recommendation for approval honor a parent's right to choose whether their AP students can read a book labeled sensitive. Dr. Corson and his team will present for second reading and recommendation for approval.
Good evening, President Matura, governing board members, Dr. Bales, cabinet, and guests. Tonight is the second reading of the literature list recommendations for advanced placement. Our facilitators for this committee, Jennifer Young, the secondary English language arts curriculum specialist, and Jenny Jarris, assistant principal at Paradise Valley High School, will be updating the governing board on guidelines for the literature list and reviewing the committee's recommendations for your consideration and approval.
Good evening. Tonight, we will be reviewing updates made to the literature list guidelines based on input that was provided by the governing board at our first reading. In addition, we will review our recommendations for titles to be added to the district literature list for advanced placement courses. As a reminder, AP courses are college-level courses that are taught in 11th and 12th grades. These novels are not intended to be used for other courses, as they are designated only for AP students. However, AP teachers may choose to teach novels from the current 11th or 12th grade literature lists. Our purpose tonight is to share with the governing board a second reading of recommendations from the Advanced Placement Literature List Committee, along with some updates regarding literature list guidelines based on input from the first reading. Our presentation will include updated guidelines for sensitive titles, best practices for teaching more than one piece of literature, a review of the committee's recommendations, and communication plans with stakeholders moving forward. In response to the input provided by the governing board at the first reading, we updated our guidelines for sensitive titles, and we would like to share those updated guidelines with you today. These guidelines would allow families to choose between a sensitive title or an alternate title at the beginning of the year. This provides teachers the necessary time to prepare a rich learning experience for all students. The following guidelines will be implemented next year. All titles, whether they contain sensitive content or not, will be listed on the syllabus at the beginning of the year. If there is a sensitive title on the list, an alternate title will also be listed as another option. The sensitive content letter will be completed and included with the syllabus. This provides parents with an explanation of the sensitive content in the novel and how it relates to the curriculum. Students and/or parents will have the opportunity to choose between the sensitive title and the alternate title that is not sensitive. This will allow the teacher time to plan for instruction. The teacher will obtain a parent signature on the syllabus indicating their choice between the sensitive title or the alternate title. The teacher will make the principal aware of the sensitive title being taught, and the teacher will review the teacher resources on the sensitive title.
In response to the governing board's interest in instructional approaches, we have also compiled a list of best practices that teachers are using when they teach more than one piece of literature at a time. Teachers are dedicated to teaching equivalent literary objectives no matter what novel students are reading. There are several ways in which teachers can accomplish this, including literature circles, discussion of common themes, literary elements, and character traits, compare and contrast of theme, characters, and setting, web quests related to historical context, skill lessons tied to standards, project-based learning and/or inquiry, writing prompts that are tied to literary elements or themes. These best practices allow students to have a meaningful and rigorous learning experience, regardless of their novel choice. The following titles are being recommended for the AP Literature list as green. If a teacher chooses to teach one of these novels, it will be listed on the syllabus at the beginning of the year, and the parent will sign the syllabus. Although these titles are not marked as sensitive, a parent still has the option to opt out of any required title, including those that are green. These titles include Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrand, All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway, Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. In addition, there are 4 titles that are being recommended for the AP Literature list as sensitive. If a teacher chooses to teach one of these titles, it will be listed on the syllabus at the beginning of the year, and teachers will also include a letter notifying families of the sensitive content. In addition, the teacher will offer an alternate title and obtain a parent signature indicating the novel choice. These titles include Snow Falling on Cedars by David Guterson, In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey, and The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. We will communicate the updated guidelines and the approved advanced placement list to all stakeholders to ensure clarity for teachers and students
and transparency for our families by doing the following. We will post the updated guidelines and advanced placement list on both the public website and the internal literature list website for teachers. We will share the updated guidelines and advanced placement list with reading specialists, department leaders, and principals at the next 2 meetings. We will highlight the updates to the literature list in publications shared with administrators and teachers. We will include the literature list information and guidelines in the new English Language Arts teacher training. And we will inform the committee members of the updated guidelines and the governing board approved list. At this time, we'll take any questions that you have.
I have a question while you're up here. I wanted to thank you for for adding the syllabus requirement. That was something I know that had come out of a discussion last time, so I appreciate that being on there because that gives parents time to review each of the titles. They can read the book or look at reviews there. If a parent signs off and signs that sensitive letter and chooses one way or the other, but if they change their mind throughout the year and after doing more research decide they want to go one way or the other, would there be an opportunity to reach out to the teacher and change their indication?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, teachers are always flexible and willing to work with parents. And you know, if a parent reached out to request that, I'm certain that would not be a problem at all.
Okay. All right, and I think I need to go to public comment cards before the next. I apologize for that oversight. We do have public comment. We have 12 public comment cards. And the first will, each person will have 3 minutes to speak. And the first one is Toby Fox. The next speaker will be Allison Failberg.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Toby Fox. I'm a community member, a PV School alumni, and a parent in the community. I have a son who's currently completing his junior year at Horizon and twin daughters who are finishing up 8th grade at Desert Shadows Middle School. As May is Teacher Appreciation Month, it seems somewhat appropriate to come before the board and express both my deep gratitude and appreciation for the teachers, administrators, and support staff who show up every day and work to ensure that all kids in this district receive an educational experience that is rich and prepares them for the future, and it's an experience that also includes reading. The last few years have been difficult for everyone, and this year is no exception. When COVID hit in May 2020, my daughters were finishing up 6th grade, and I can't help but wonder what their middle school experience would have been like without the specter of COVID. But what I also know is that it was their teachers who never wavered when it came to supporting and educating them. This year, I've watched my son morph from a teenager into a young man on the precipice of adulthood. This is someone who's taking the lessons from the classroom and deciding for himself who he wants to be and what it means to be a leader and a citizen. Certainly, this is something we've nurtured in him as parents, but his confidence and courage of conviction has been made stronger because of his teachers and the curriculum. I urge you to please approve the AP reading list. Reading opens minds to ideas in the world around us. Getting lost in a book is one of the greatest gifts we can give our children and one of the greatest joys a person can experience. With that said, I want to say thank you to the teachers and staff at Horizon, Desert Shadows Middle School, and throughout the district, who show up every day for kids and their families. We see you, we appreciate you, and we support you. And most importantly, we're grateful for what you do every day.
Okay, next is Allison Failberg.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you for all that you do for our public schools. I'm a parent of 3 open enrolled students in the PVUSD. I have 1 graduating senior, 1 rising junior at Horizon, and 1 rising 8th grader at Desert Shadows Middle School. All 3 of my kids have participated in honors in this district since the 4th grade. This coming fall, my older daughter will be attending a prestigious 4-year mid-sized private university. This school is so competitive that it only admitted 8% of applicants for the class of 2026. To say that my daughter is prepared for college, has been prepared for college by this district, and our amazing teachers is putting it mildly. We are very happy with the education our kids are receiving, particularly the critical thinking offered in the advanced placement level courses. I'm here tonight to ask the board to approve the literature list as presented by the Literature Review Committee. I trust our teachers, the parents, the administrators in their guidance and the implementation for my kids' education. Thank you.
Next, we have Anita Perkel, and then will be Nora Feinberg. No, Anita Perkel, and then Nora Feinberg. Sorry.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for giving me this moment to speak. I wanted to first, as piggyback off of some of the other parents, my deepest gratitude for the educators and in this district. This night is typically held for a celebration of accomplishments, and I've always actually enjoyed coming to the end of the year meeting here. So oftentimes our educators wake before we start our day. And so I'd like to give support in the AP reading list. I think it is extremely important to take into consideration. The AP College Board gives our teachers and educators the framework to prepare our kids for the next step. And they have also warned many districts and schools that they would likely pool these certifications that you guys work so hard to have with the AP and College Board. And that could impact our own very schools if we think of removing certain books or sensitive books. Our schools can lose their designation. And we wouldn't want that because that would mean a removal of that designation for college and universities that would impact our students. And so that impacts our students, and that list is there so that colleges and universities can verify those transcripts and in the schools in the schools. So I am here to support the AP list, and I hope that you do too.
Okay, we have Nora Feinberg and then Haradel.
Hello, my name is Nora Feinberg. Thank you all for letting us have an open forum. My name is Nora, I already said my name is Nora Feinberg, sorry about that. I'm a senior at Horizon High School and I'm in the choir program. I'm very grateful for 12 years in the district. I started at Sonoran Sky, then went to Desert Shadows, and now I'm at Horizon. I have taken 8 AP classes and 8 AP tests. Thanks to College Board and the amazing opportunities that I've been granted from Horizon High School the past 3 years. And just, I'm very grateful for all of that time, especially my time in AP Literature this year. I've had the opportunity to work with an incredible teacher and learned a lot about complex literature in order to prepare me for the AP test. And I'm just going to read you the prompt from so there's 3 essay prompts from the AP literature test. The third one being the literary analysis, which is an open-ended question that prompts you and allows you to choose any work of literary complexity. So I'm going to read you the prompt that was this year's because it's been released by College Board. Many works of literature feature characters who accept or reject a hierarchical structure. This hierarchy may be social, economic, political, or familial, or it may apply to some other kind of structure. Either you from your own reading or from the list below choose a work of fiction in which a character responds to a hierarchy in some significant way. Then in a well-written essay, analyze how the character's response to the hierarchy contributes to an interpretation of the work as a whole. Do not merely summarize the plot. So this prompts us to choose a work of literary complexity. And how are AP students supposed to succeed on the AP test without having options of literary complexity? Complexity does not derive from simply having books that are not in the least bit controversial. We need to have a little bit of controversiality because otherwise we won't have conversation and we will not earn the complexity point and will basically be marked with a 0 on that entire essay. And you're setting up the students in our district for failure by not allowing us to have the access to these books in schools. So I plead that for the next years, I won't be here, but please allow these books to remain on the literature list. Thank you so much for your time.
Haradel, and then will be Tony Pantera.
Good evening again. I'm not sure how I can follow Nora after that. It was amazing. But I have 3 kids in the district. I have a freshman at PV and I have twin girls at Mountain Trail. And as one of the 2 parents who are on the AP Lit List committee, I wanted to share my perspective on the process that we undertook and the books that we discussed. The books were submitted by our AP teachers. They were all done so with intention. I believe of the 11 books that were submitted and the 9 books that we have asked to be added to the AP Lit List, it will provide a more robust list of options for teachers to use. We had AP Lit teachers from our high schools, including PV Online, administrators, and 2 parents. It was inspiring to listen to the teachers speak about these books. It not only made me want to encourage my son to take AP Lit, but it made me want to reread the books that I didn't get a chance to read as a member of the committee. And I actually read 3 books, one that's on the green list, one that's on the sensitive list, and one that we didn't pass on. For me, the book was more impactful listening to these scholars speak about them. And that is what I keep in my head that I want for my kids. I heard earlier tonight that our world is in good hands because our kids are in PV. Allowing our teachers to teach to the highest ability of the kids is one reason that we can say that. There could not be a better place than in one of our AP Lit classrooms with one of our AP Lit teachers to discuss and critically think about difficult yet important pieces of literature. That's what I want for my kids, and that is what I hope that all parents want for theirs. Thank you.
Next is Tony Pantera, and then Carrie Baker.
Good evening, President Matura, Cabinet, board members. Glad to be here. Tony Pantera. I've lived and taught in this district since 1978. Okay, although pretty soon I'll just be living in the district because I'm retiring this year. I'm out of here. But my children went to this school district. My grandson was enrolled in the schools here, and I've always been very proud of it. I'm looking at the mission statement of this district to cultivate world-class learners. Okay, well, for world-class learners, you have to be aware of the world. A broad and diverse type of literature that you're exposed to helps you do that. I don't want to talk about the literature list so much as the process that it came by. The work of this wonderful committee, which had teachers, administrators, and parents on it, okay, reflects the willingness of this district to call on everybody, the diverse population within our district, to find out what we really want to have here. That's why I know I'm leaving this district in great hands. I very much support this list and the way it's been done and put together. Thank you very much for your time.
Carrie Baker, and then Sandra Christensen.
Good evening, President Matura, Dr. Bales, governing board members, and cabinet members. Tonight, I come to you to talk about parental rights and parent choice. As a mother of former high school students, current high school students, and soon to be, or not in my kindergartner's case, but future high school students, I want to make sure my rights and choices as a parent are protected. In other words, I want my students to have options in their classes. I want diversity in literature. I don't want options taken away that could provide valuable teaching experiences. When we limit what our children are exposed to, we limit their possibilities. The more children learn and the more educated they are, the more open-minded they are. I have had 2 high school students, one in honors English and one in AP English. Every time they read a book, a permission slip has to be signed. I had a choice on whether my student could read the assigned books. I always gave permission. I trust that experienced teachers are making the best choices for my sons. Because of the books that my kids have been encouraged to read, I have compassionate, understanding, and open-minded children. By reading about experiences that are different from theirs, and yes, sometimes uncomfortable experiences, my children have a deeper understanding of a range of human experiences. This makes them better adults. With the guidance of a teacher, they are able to talk about and digest difficult topics. Topics they have access to anyway via social media, television, TV. I'd rather have the exposure in their classroom where they can talk about it safely and openly than in their rooms alone on their phone late at night. I'm here to ask the board to approve the AP literature list as presented. Again, when we limit books, we limit choices. When we limit choices, we limit our own growth as individuals, and then we limit our capacity to be empathetic and to be better citizens, parents, and friends. Thank you.
Sandra Christensen and then Nicole Klutwick.
My name is Sandra Christensen. I'm a mom of a high schooler, and I went to all the AP Lit meetings, and I was very impressed with the AP Lit teachers. The positives that I took away from that, it was a wonderful process, as Ms. Dembowski described. I too was grateful to the AP teachers. They were thoughtful, and I could see that they really loved literature and teaching. The rubric was excellent. I was grateful for the list lit. It's a tongue twister, list lit guidelines update and the syllabus update that were presented earlier today as well. The items discussed in the committee that I was a little bit concerned with was the argument that since kids have access to inappropriate material on the internet, which I don't really feel is valid, it's very different from a teacher giving a required reading assignment. So that was discussed in committee. One clarification that I did want to do was the committee is looking at recommend and not recommend. They're not looking at banning books. This has nothing to do with banning books. It's just books that we as a district would be proud of. Transparency and parental choice is important. I read 2 of the books. I read Hemingway's Sun Also Rises and Atwood's Handmaid's Tale. As a woman of faith, it was really difficult to get through the second book. With the violence, cruelty, and graphic sex that was described in detail, I felt it was very anti-Bible, anti-person of faith, discusses suicide as a way to escape the life of a sex slave. In chapter 16, there was an excerpt that said, "My red skirt is hiked up to my waist, though no higher below. The commander is fighting. What is he fighting? Is the lower part of my body. I do not say making love because it's not what he's doing. Copulating 2 would be inaccurate because it would imply 2 people and only one is involved, nor does rape cover it. Nothing is going on here that I haven't signed up for." That wasn't a lot of choice, but there was some. Then a few sentences later, Serena Joy grips my hands as if she, not I, who is being fucked, as if she finds it pleasurable or painful, as the commander with a regular 2/4 marching stroke on and on like a tap dripping. While I'm not for banning books, I am for following district policy and reading materials that are age appropriate, even for AP. Please approve books in our district that can be proud of, and put the Handmaid's Tale on the do not recommend list. Thank you.
Nicole Klutwick and then Teresa Smith.
I didn't sign up for this. I actually signed up to talk about something earlier. So you'll notice my number doesn't say this. But since you invited me, I always have something to say. So I actually listened to the person who spoke from the trafficking center. She comes here most meetings and talks about trafficking. I don't think she's ever explained what trafficking is in our in our situation, I always thought it meant that like the kid was kidnapped and they're gone. And I'm like, how is that possible? Like, I don't know anybody whose kids, how can we be the biggest in the nation? And I don't know anybody who had a kid get kidnapped. And she explained to me, no, the pimp doesn't want to take care of him. The kid lives at home. The kid lives at home, fed by the parents, stays at home. And the pimp just, makes friendly, gets them to be in a sexual relationship, and then starts selling them. I talked to my son and I asked him, she made a point that, when she was talking to kids who were in college, how many of them had to read sexually explicit information as part of their freshman, sophomore, junior years? My son went to Horizon. He graduated last year. He just finished his first year at ASU. He took a number of AP courses, got 5s on a number of exams, but I don't think in English. And I asked him, how many things did they make you read that were sexually explicit? And he said literally 0. There was zero at the college level that they asked me to read that's sexually explicit. So I just want to point out that I feel like we're conflating complexity, literary depth, high level of education with sexually explicit material. They're not one and the same. It's not required. I was going to hold my tongue on this, but I find it very odd that when we look at our device information on what kids are allowed to have on their device, they're not allowed to have sexually explicit material, but we're going to assign it. I get the parents have the choice. I'm all for choice. I'm not for book banning. I just find it inconsistent. Thank you.
Apologies for that mix up there, Ms. Klutwick. Teresa Smith and then Mandy Neat.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Smith, and I'm an AP English teacher at Pinnacle High School. I'm finishing my 21st year with the district, and in that time, I've had the honor of serving on several district committees, including several curriculum adoptions, both for regular level and for AP level courses, and the literature list. I understand the process of the committees that our committees undertake and the good work that they do over months and sometimes years, as was the case with the literature list that I was on. Thank you, Pandemic. I want to thank you, President Matura, Dr. Bales, Governing Board and Cabinet, for allowing our district to consider so much of our important business through the committee process. This process involves all stakeholders. As you know, Cabinet, administrators, teachers, parents, and community members. I appreciate the work our committees do. Our literature list committees spend months reviewing and talking about a variety of books that are suggested for inclusion in our classes at all levels. Not all titles that are considered and reviewed and discussed during that process are recommended to you for approval. Those that do come to you with the committee recommendation have been thoroughly vetted by stakeholders. And thank you for trusting their judgment. And I ask that you accept the recommendation of all the titles of that our committee has presented to you for inclusion in our college level, 11th and 12th grade AP courses. And just in response to some of the comments, to say recommend or not recommend is to say these are for recommend for approval or not recommend for approval. And if you don't recommend it for approval, it's not approved, and that is banning a book from our classrooms. Thank you.
Mandy Neat, and then our final speaker will be Shannon Wood.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Mandy Neat, and I have currently moved my family from the Tolleson School District to the Paradise Valley School District because of your reputation and the opportunities allotted to kids in the classroom. I have incoming junior this year, and I have twins that are incoming into their 9th year. I ask you as board members, and thank you for your time, to respect the work that your committees do, to take away your own personal biases and remember when you were in high school. When an adult said, no, you can't, what did you want to do? You wanted to do it. These books are an option. We're not mandating any child or parent to approve it. We're providing options. Our committees have worked endless hours and debated long hours to say, this is what will engage a child. These are options that will get them to read. So please forget your background, forget your biases, and think and be empathetic to the children in the classroom that are doing the assignments. And remember, you're not their parents. Their parents will make the decisions for that child. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to spending the next 4 years with you.
And Shannon Wood.
My name is Shannon Wood, and I'm an Honors English 1-2 AP Capstone and next year AP Literature and Composition teacher at Pinnacle. I was also a part of the AP Lit List Committee this year, and I read and reviewed All the Light We Cannot See and The Handmaid's Tale. I'm also the parent of 2 Pinnacle High School graduates and 1 future Pinnacle High School graduate. Since I've worked in some capacity with all grade levels, literally from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, I feel I have a pretty good grasp of the developmental capabilities of most students. Without hesitation, I would say the texts I reviewed would not be suitable for elementary, middle, or even lower level high school students, whether honors or regular. But also without hesitation, I would say these texts would be suitable for 12th grade AP Lit students. AP Lit is the highest level English class available at the high school level and mimics a college level lit course. The students who voluntarily enroll in this course are cognitively, intellectually, and emotionally advanced. They are ready to move beyond the concepts they explored in lower level literature like Where the Red Fern Grows, To Kill a Mockingbird, and Lord of the Flies. All great literature, no doubt, but way too simple for preparation for an AP Lit test. Based on conversations these kids have had in my presence, they want to be challenged by complex figurative devices that deepen their comprehension, by flawed characters that mirror the people they encounter in real life, and yes, by controversial topics that are relevant and current and will prepare them for college and the real world. Some of the text in question have been labeled sensitive by the AP Lit Committee, the district organized group of parents, administrators, and teachers that followed the process outlined by the district. When a text is labeled sensitive, it means that parents or students can opt out. I 100% agree that parents should be able to request an alternate text for their own students, but I do not think they should be able to make that decision for all students. Parent choice is parent choice, so please don't take away my choice or the choice of other parents because some parents don't want these texts included on the list. Please approve this list. Thank you.
Okay, we'll have the motion first, and then we'll open for questions and discussion. May I please have a motion to approve the Advanced Placement Literature List final recommendations as presented?
So moved.
Okay, anyone have questions or comments? We have the team here. Mrs. Case?
I have a question of, where Jen Young, there. I have a question for you. So you went through how it could be taught various things in one classroom, but I have some other kind of how it's to be done. So I'm assuming some of the schools are going to have summer reading. So this list the syllabus would go out soon for their approval for summer reading, or how does that work? How does it work when these books are read and et cetera?
Well, summer reading for this year has already gone out, but for next year, just like they do on the syllabus, teachers would be required to list the novels for summer reading on the summer reading project and get a signature. So same rules would apply as they do for the syllabus. Did that answer your question?
Okay, but okay, let me ask it another way. Does the summer reading, is it just by itself and then the syllabus is a separate thing? How does that work?
Yes, so because the summer reading is generally for the next level course. So at the beginning of the year, they would get the syllabus for the current course. Summer reading comes at the end of the year and it's for the next level course.
Right.
but then they would also get the syllabus for the next level course when they come back to school.
So the syllabus would be given to them in the fall, in August?
That's correct.
And that would include, this is what we're going to cover this year. And at PV, where my children attended, it turned into block scheduling, so it would be for the block or whatever.
For the semester.
Right,
or
for
year.
the semester. Okay, so the schools that are still doing summer reading, and I've had 7 children go through summer reading programs in our district, and I've tried to get them to read their books and outline everything. And it was the biggest pain in my neck. I mean, it was hard, but finally I paid them, and that worked. I resorted to anything. I'm back. Anyway, I did. I said, if you get it done by July 15th, you get this, what you want. I know, I would do everything. But and I've seen all the lists of like the books, most of the books that you have were on the listed as recommended novels, and it listed how many times it was used on AP prompts, etc. I have all those things. And it looks like most of these lists that you brought to the reading committee had been used as prompts at some point in time over the last 20 years or whatever. I've seen all those lists. But so is that a lot of why these books were used to go as, how did you?
I believe that's why the AP teachers submitted them, yes.
They were submitted because they had been used on AP tests.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
The 2 nonfiction books have not been used on the AP test, but those were submitted more for the AP Lang course as opposed to the AP Literature course.
Okay.
Unbroken and In Cold Blood.
Oh, those were the 2 that were, okay. So I've gone through so many different literature lists from many, many places, like the top AP English literature reading list. Are these still applicable? Because they said the top 10, if you want to do well on AP preparedness, they said Invisible Man, Great Expectations. This is number 1. These are the top 10. Wuthering Heights, Heart of Darkness, King Lear, and it goes on and on. Crime and Punishment, Portrait of an Artist, Jane Eyre, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and Moby Dick. Those are the top 10. And by the AP, the top AP English literature reading list, that you need to have read those books to be prepared. That's what the list said. So I don't know. I'm sure there's different lists from different people. So I'm just curious where your list was obtained.
From the College Board.
From the College Board. Okay. So this would be, okay. So I'm sure there's different lists from different people promoting different things. Okay. So these books could be used for summer reading, the ones that are being recommended, and they could be used during the school year in the future summer reading, because you've said that it's already been assigned for this year. Is that correct?
That's correct. They could be used for classroom or summer reading. Yes.
Okay. I'll have some more questions, but I'm going to let somebody else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone have a question or comment? Mrs. Bacon?
My question is really how will the teachers get this information? And you talked about it a little bit in terms of some written information that they're going to get, but will there be conversations with the AP literature teachers to kind of really go over the specific changes that we've made to the process? Because I think that's one of the most challenging things, is getting the information out to people so that they know,
right,
what they have to do and what the expectations are.
Yeah.
So will there be other ways to get that done?
Yeah, well, that's why, I mentioned multiple different ways that we're trying to make sure we communicate the information so that it gets out there to everyone. My direct contact is with principals and IDLs or department leaders. And so then I rely on the principals and IDLs to talk to the advanced placement teachers. We also have a literature list website for teachers that's shared with everyone multiple times throughout the year, and it's, available to teachers at any time. And then I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I'm also meeting with new teachers at the beginning of the school year. Not sure if there are any advanced placement new teachers, but I want to go over the lit list guidelines with them at any rate, because the guidelines about getting the syllabus signed in that won't only apply to AP, those will apply to everyone. And then I believe that's everything, including informing committee members, and almost all of our AP teachers were on the committee. So,
Mr. Laney?
Yeah, thank you. So one of my goals when I put in my application to be on this board was to reduce contention in the district. And that's been one of my overriding goals. And the way I'm trying to do that is through communication and transparency and just talking with people. So along that lines, I have a brief statement to read so people understand why I made the decision I'll make about this in just a minute. So in my life, I consider agency or freedom, it's what I consider the most important thing. It's the most important thing that we have as people. My main concern as a school board member, and I can't read this with my glasses on, my main concern as a school board member is representing all kids in the district, regardless of my own moral beliefs. There is a misconception that people are for banning books. This is not the case. My grandmother actually left a country that did ban books, Germany. So I do have some familiarity with that, and I highly doubt anybody in here has actually lived underneath that type of atmosphere with true banning of books. So restricting minors from being taught by an authority figure graphic content is not banning books. Everyone still has their agency to purchase any book they want and read it. Though I disagree with some of the content in these books, and I wouldn't read them myself, I understand why some parents or students wouldn't mind reading them. I get it. However, if there's even one kid who doesn't want to read this content, as it may be offensive to them, then I have a responsibility to allow them their agency. The best way to do this is through communication and transparency. So I'm really grateful for the changes that were made to this document, and because I feel that it's doing that. It's giving all of the parents and kids a choice in this. It's letting them know what they're getting into, and it's reducing the contention when it comes to that. There will be a system in place to protect those who want to read a sensitive book and those who do not want to be exposed to that sensitive content. So I have one question for you, though, on this before I propose something. There are 79 books on the AP Lit list for 12th grade. Of those books, only 4 right now are sensitive. So with this list that we're introducing right now, we're basically doubling the sensitive books. I'm just curious, what was the rationale behind that? Because it's just causing contention, and so I'm curious what the rationale was behind these books.
the books were submitted by the AP teachers. So, the committee considered them. We didn't really have sensitive guidelines or sensitive novels for that matter up until just the last lit list adoption, which took place last year, or was finalized last year. So books that have been on the literature list for many years, we just didn't necessarily have that designation. And so I kind of think that now that we have that designation, we're going to see books marked as sensitive because we want to make sure that we are, trying to be as transparent with parents as possible.
Gotcha. So you're saying it wasn't intentional. It's just the way everything's coming into play and all that. So that's what I wanted to. Yeah, awesome. That's
Yeah, the process did not exist before.
Mhm.
Now it does. So.
Okay, thank you. And so I also appreciate all of the work the reviewers have done. And I would like to present a slight change to the item for approval. Slaughterhouse 5, I would like it to be placed on the sensitive list. And that's the only change I would like. Though it's not as graphic as Handmaid's Tale, that's obvious for those who have read it, and I have a copy right here. It does mention bestiality in it. So for those who may be sensitive to that, because I'm looking out for every kid, I would like that small change added when we put this up for approval. And that's what I have. Thanks.
Okay, do we have discussion around that proposed amendment or Mrs. Case?
I also support that. I have many descriptions of Slaughterhouse 5 that I could read. Some I won't read, but I think it should be listed on the sensitive. I also have one other change I want to make, but I have a question for these two women.
Okay.
Okay, so will there be an explanation of what makes it sensitive to the parents? And will it come from the notes from the committee? Because I've read all those.
So when we have a sensitive title, we create teacher resource documents that list the sensitive content, items of discussion that teachers would want to discuss with students. And then we provide resources like links and things like that to help the teacher provide some resources for them. So then they take the information from the teacher resource document, put it into the sensitive content letter that they share with parents, and it includes information about the nature of the sensitive content.
Okay, because on the on Slaughterhouse 5, if you go to Common Sense Media, which I think the committee used in their beginning discussions, the mentions of condom, pornographic pictures, nocturnal emissions, intercourse, erections, and marital infidelity. That is what it said about Slaughterhouse 5. And there's also a graphic description of a graphic version of this that has pictures involved. And so they have to black stuff out because of, anyway. So a child could pick up the graphic one, which is even more pornographic is what I'm trying to say. So what parents need to know that Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut is a classic of anti-war science fiction. The graphic novel adaptation opens up the story set during World War II, and then it goes on. Strong language, violence, and I won't even read these words. I don't know. I'm not going to read all these words, but there's a lot of things in there, and it's on the green list. It's not on the sensitive list. So I agree that it should be moved to the sensitive list. It's parents, because the parents who would receive that we're going to read this book and they wouldn't have any knowledge of this unless they spent a lot of time researching like I have. So anyway, that's what I suggest.
I do just want to clarify that the graphic novel is not the one that we're recommending for the literature.
Right, but if a child went to pick up the book, that is also available and you don't know which one they would get. I mean, when you're getting a book, they both come up if you're doing it online or whatever. I mean, I'm just saying, and if the teachers say, don't get this one, for sure they'll get it. So I don't know. I'm just saying that's, when you pull it up, they both come up online. Okay.
I have a clarification. Will in an AP class, because it is an optional class and it's separate from the normal trajectory, are the books provided for the students or are they expected to buy them on their own?
Books are provided for the students.
Okay, so okay, so if it's on the list, they would be handed the book, so they wouldn't be given the wrong book by mistake.
I mean,
is that a new thing? I've bought a lot of books through the years for reading for AP literature.
It could vary by school, but any school that I've ever taught at, we provided the books for the kids. So
Sometimes they do like to have them
Ms. Matura, we do provide class sets of books when a school decides that a teacher is going to teach those books. We do provide the class sets. Oftentimes, we find that our AP students like to purchase their own books, however, because they like to mark in the books and provide annotations and that sort of thing. And they like to have a personal copy of it beyond the class. And so sometimes students do purchase their own.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question. On the syllabus, I don't know if there would be an indication where the parent might be notating, here's the list of books. We encourage you to review these with your student and to look up, resources on them, or will there be any kind of information about that would encourage parents to look into the titles and look into the information before signing off on any of the titles?
I do have a template for teachers to use that they can just include the page in their syllabus. So, I mean, that would be an easy sentence to add in, and I think a lot of parents are definitely interested in what their kids are reading and would want to look into it. So.
Mrs. Greenberg?
I went through, the lit list, our 4 through 12 lit list, and there are, I'm going to say this wrong because some of the titles are for more than one grade level, but if you count them as separate titles, currently there's 488 titles on the list. 13 of those are now marked sensitive, so we're, 3-4% of our books are sensitive. And I appreciate that we mark them. I suspect over time, others will probably join that list, whether it's, moving Slaughterhouse 5 on or, other titles. I believe that is, a critical resource we provide our parents and our students. And I do not believe in removing any books from this list that has been recommended. These aren't new books. I mean, it's not like Handmaid's Tale has never been used in our classroom. I mean, I was talking to my son who graduated in 2008 and said, oh, we're doing this lit review. And he goes, oh yeah, my copy's still in, my old bedroom. I mean, he had this 14 years ago, and great discussion in class. And like many parents who have students who've gone through AP, my son ended up, with, this was Dr. Corson's first year, over the course of time, he took, 12, 13 AP tests and managed to graduate college in 3 years because this district prepared him so well in terms of passing college level material as a high school student. And for whoever also said their child's going to, a 4-year high school, my son graduated Duke University in 3 years, had a year off, and was literally told he could have flunked 3 more classes and still have a year off. We need to prepare our students. We need to and particularly when we're talking AP, there is a literal return on investment for our students if they do well on the AP tests. And we need to be able to support our students in doing that, and we need to be able to support our parents in having the choices for their students to do that. If a parent does not want their student to read a book, they will not read a book, period. I think over the course of the last year or two, this board in this district has shown a true commitment to that. So I do not believe that we should remove anything from this list. I read Slaughterhouse 5 in high school. Sure, they're want to market sensitive, we can market sensitive. I can I think we also have to realize that in many books, sensitivity is in the eye of the beholder. And there's many books throughout our list, throughout any list, throughout our libraries, throughout, public libraries, that for one person is not going to be sensitive, and for the next person it will be. And that's the reality of it. And I appreciate that Mrs. Matura asked the question, if a parent makes a choice in the beginning and wants to change, can they do that? And I'm thrilled that the answer is yes, because circumstances are going to change. I mean, our 5th grade list has the bridge to Terabithia. I'm mispronouncing it. Most of us would very likely not consider that book sensitive, but if you have a child who the course of the year experiences the tragedy that the protagonist experiences, that book is going to become sensitive for that student, and we have to be aware of that. And I believe our teachers are. I trust the process. I trust the professionalism of our teachers, of the committee. I appreciate the extraordinary amount of time we put in. I appreciate the transparency of this committee. And again, I'm okay with moving Slaughterhouse 5 to sensitive, and I hope my colleagues will join me in approving this list.
Mrs. Case? Thank you. I also have one, and by the way, I have read your notes. You guys put in, your whole committee, a ton of work. I don't want to say thank you, because I have read what you wrote. I know the books you read, because it listed who read what. I've gone through a lot of committee meetings, and I appreciate that that is available for people to see. The transparency that went into this whole process is to be commended. So I wanted to make sure that was said before I go on. I do have a problem with the book, The Handmaid's Tale, and Mrs. Greenberg. I also had a daughter go through college in 3 years. She never read The Handmaid's Tale. She passed all those AP tests, so it's not necessary to read those books to be able to graduate in 3 years. But and I'm glad your son did that. That is fabulous. So in the listing I have, if I can find it here, I have so many papers. The process for The Handmaid's Tale, I read, and I don't think I printed the name of the person. Over and over again in The Handmaid's Tale, they talked about suicide. And I understand the handmaids were being forced to have sex, forced to produce children, and they were miserable. They didn't want to be there. And here are some of the notes that your committee member wrote. So this is from a teacher's quote. The book contains significant suicide ideation, public executions, rape, beatings, sexual encounters, and adultery. Some limited profanity and references to pornography. And I've sent my colleagues down 2 pages of it. I will not read what the pornography listed in the book. I'm going to dwell mainly on suicide. So here's some more said by the teacher. Of all of us of that said, there are passages in the book that would be uncomfortable to read. And I'm not going to read those passages in a school board meeting. I'm sorry, I won't. That have to be bleeped out. Anyway, on page 87, there's sex. 93, 95, there's sex. And then body parts mentioned in great detail. Suicide. This is what I want to dwell on. And this is what a teacher wrote on your committee. Suicide. If I'm being honest, the only sensitive content that bothers me in this book are the numerous references to suicide. I have a personal recent connection to this, so I put myself in the it says shows, but I think it means something else, of other kids who have personal connections to this. Again, I'm prepared to read these passages. So the teacher says they'll be brave and read it, but oh my goodness. Offered constantly references suicide or the ways the handmaids could commit suicide to get them out of their horrible circumstances. Page 7, they've removed anything you could tie a rope to, referencing the removing of the overhead lamp and the hooks and other things like that. Page 8, it isn't the running away they're afraid of. We couldn't get far. It's those other escapes, the ones you can open in yourself. Giving a cutting edge, referencing the fact that all the glass had either been removed from the handmaid's room or had been replaced with shatterproof glass so they could slit their wrists. Page 62, reference to how someone always had to monitor the handmaids when they were in the bathroom or bathtub, no mirrors, and close monitoring so they don't drown themselves. Page 97, I want to steal something. What I would like to steal is a knife from the kitchen, but I'm not ready for that. She's not ready to kill herself just yet. She hasn't lost all hope. The world is full of weapons if you're looking for them. Page 292 discusses ways she could die. Burn the house down, the sheets around the neck, and choke herself off. Freeze herself to death. Knife, sewing scissors, knitting needles, garden shears. Really, with the amount of suicide our kids are going through, I had a nephew who committed suicide. I think that topic alone should keep this book out from the list. I'm very concerned about. Okay,
Excuse
but
me.
as I read those things, I understand.
Excuse Mrs. Case. This is a discussion among the board, and we are glad to have you in the audience and listening, but this is not a participatory portion of the meeting. We have members of the committee here who are speaking on behalf of the committee to give us information, but we would appreciate if there are no comments from the audience. Thank you. Mrs. Case, you may continue.
Thank you, Mrs. Mature. So as a board member, I feel we don't know the vulnerability of our students. This is a very hard time. They get messages on social media. They could be having a horrible day. We don't want them to get ideas from a book that would do this. I just, as a elected official, this bothers me, that there's so much reference. And the whole book, it references sex and they want to get out of it. Well, what if a student's in a difficult situation? What if their girlfriend broke up with them? What if, I'm sorry, I have a really hard time. And I understand it's supposed to make you think, and the way women are treated in the book is horrid. And I know the point is supposed to be, you're supposed to teach them that you don't want to treat women this way, but there's a lot of demented people, that 18-year-old that just shot up the people in Buffalo. There's people who are off balance, and I don't want to give them ideas. And as an elected official, I feel that the books that come from our district, if they're on our recommended AP list, a recommended literature list, I feel responsible for that. So I couldn't vote for that, but I appreciate, and there's a lot of sensitive books on this. I get that. And I understand talking about war, talking about hard things, what's going on in Ukraine. Watch the news. It's horrific. It's horrible. But I just think a book that dwells so much on suicide is not something that should be approved. I just, from the bottom of my heart, I have some very deep concerns about that. Thank you.
Mrs. Bacon?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate both Mrs. Case and Mrs. Greenberg for having kids graduate in 3 years. Neither of my kids did that. So that's just the start with. And I don't think that Mrs. Greenberg was saying her son graduated in 3 years because of The Handmaid's Tale. I just think you both have really smart kids. So congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you for life.
No problem. But being a person who actually has a degree in mental health, one of the stigmas around suicide is not talking about it. It's not having it be in the conversation. It's staying inside the student where they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to deal with it. So while it is concerning, the problem with suicide is that we don't talk about it, that we don't give students the tools that they need to deal with the feelings that they have, to be open and honest, and allow their parents and the staff to address these issues. Secrecy is part of suicide. And I've had personal experiences with it. I know many of you have. And talking about it is what helps calm that. Getting treatment for your children is what helps us deal with suicide. It is not talking about it. However, the other part of this is we have talented, responsible adults who are going to guide these conversations, and they're going to know students they're going to be able to see students who are struggling with this. And I am grateful for staff members in our schools who have done that for my children. So I want to make sure that we understand that suicide is a very significant issue. And it's one that's been talked about a lot over the past 2 years by a lot of people. I've been talking about suicide my entire life. My whole career has been about mental health. It's been about students sharing their situations and as a method to student achievement, to doing better in school. So I think it's in there. It is concerning, but I'm someone who believes that talking about things is the way you get through them. My daughter once said to me recently, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine and she was telling me about a problem she was having with her family. And I said to her, why don't you just talk to them about it? And she's like, we don't talk about things. And my daughter said, oh, at my house, it's like talk all the time. So that's a curse, right, that I gave my kids. I think the other thing is I would be open to moving Slaughterhouse-5. I will not say any book should not be read by any person that I am not their parent. If it's a minor child, parents have the right to make those decisions. I cannot judge for them what they should and should not allow their students to read. And so I said this earlier at the first reading, and I'm going to say it again now. I'm not going to tell parents what their kids can and can't read. And so that's where I stand.
And Mrs. Case also wanted to, this may help a little bit there, in that the discussion of suicide within the book is not glorifying suicide, which could have a different impact on how a student may read it, as opposed to looking at it as a negative outcome, as opposed to glorifying the idea of it. So that gives a little balance there, but I appreciate Mrs. Bacon weighing in with with her background in mental health. So something like suicide, that would be listed on one of the items for the parents to be aware of. And a question is, if a student starts reading a book, even if the parent approved it, if a student starts reading it and does not want to continue the novel, will they be allowed to opt themselves out of the novel, even if they've already started, and be able to move over to the other option?
Absolutely.
There are other comments or questions? Mr. Laney?
Just want to say I appreciate all of the comments, the different views. That's the way I feel we should handle things and participate in civil discussions so we can work out our differences and come to a common consensus. Like I said in my statement, though I wouldn't read the book and don't necessarily agree with it being on the list, I would also not stop somebody from doing it, because I think agency is the most important thing that we have. And I appreciate the changes and the questions that were asked, showing that parents have full transparency in this and they know what is on the curriculum. They'll know whether the book's censored or not. And I appreciate you supporting my view to move Slaughterhouse 5 to the sensitive list. And I get that, where do you draw the line? I mean, that's an almost impossibility. But it does need to be drawn somewhere. And I feel that by discussing with each other, we can come to those conclusions. So I appreciate all of the comments.
Mrs. Case?
Thank you. So are you saying that when the book goes out, the teacher will list perhaps pages or whatever, just like I have read, that they will say that suicide is mentioned on these pages to make you aware? How will that be addressed?
The sensitive topics will be listed, but there won't be specific page numbers listed.
Okay. But if a parent wants to know more, would that be made available to them?
Yeah, the letter states that if the parent wants to inquire more about the book, they can contact the teacher and ask any questions that they want to ask.
Okay. To me, this book is pornographic. I'm just putting that in public record. And we've already had discussions this year earlier with it. I'm just saying that I cannot approve something that we're putting forth as that. That's blatantly. So I'm just, and you can have lots of opinions on that, but I feel like there's a lot of people who elected me who would say they agree with me, and I feel that I have to say that. And I'm not trying to take away from the discussion of the teachers in any shape or form or the committee, because I think there was a ton of work involved. I mean, I can just look at the notes and know how much work was involved. So I can't vote for that. So I just want to let you know that's my premise there. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, so, Mrs. Greenberg?
Thank you. I used to be better at that. I just want to say, Mrs. Case, I'm glad that both of our children had options in terms of their reading lists in their classes, and it worked out well for all of them.
My daughter read As I Lay Dying and complained about it every day.
Yeah, I mean, but that's simply the point that I was trying to make, is we do have options. We've had them for a long time. And putting the book on the list does not necessarily mean every teacher is going to put it on their syllabus. So,
That is also true, but the committee themselves had 11 books and came up with 9. So were they book banning? I don't think so.
Well, book banning is by, I think, definition when a governing body says something can't be. So, and that's what we are. It's a recommended list, right? From a committee of people, and there were various reasons that they weren't recommended. There were lots of different criteria that they looked at. It wasn't just sensitive content. There were other issues, whether it was appropriate in terms of the learning objectives, the teaching objectives, all of those things. So I think the rubric probably had more than just sensitive content in it.
yeah, I was under the impression that the 2 books that were not recommended was because the literary value did not outweigh the sensitive content, et cetera. So,
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I believe we have one amendment to, am I correct?
Can I make a motion that would say that we take off that book?
We can offer that as an amendment. Okay, so I will bring forth the 2 different amendments separately. We have a motion to amend, the motion to approve, as presented by Mr. Laney, with the amendment to the motion is as follows, would be to move the book Slaughterhouse 5 from, to designate that as a sensitive title. Is that fairly stated?
Yeah, that is. The way you're presenting this, though, is going to cause a conflict with my voting, but that's okay. I think I've expressed my views on how I feel that I don't, whether I vote no or yes on A Handmaid's Tale has nothing to do with whether I think it should be on there or not. It's just, that's my conscience. That's my morality. But So are you running this first part with just,
This is just Slaughterhouse. I'm just we're trying to
Slaughterhouse
just
Five.
Slaughterhouse
Okay.
5. We're doing a separate
confused.
amendment. I'm just going to. That's why I wanted to clarify because
Okay.
this was amended. This is your amendment
Okay.
or your proposed amendment. You'd requested, so I want to make sure that I'm capturing that properly. So the amendment to the motion would be as follows: would be to mark the book Slaughterhouse 5 as a sensitive title. Is that fair? Okay.
Mrs. Matura, I'm just wondering if it makes more sense to reverse that so that we don't approve something that still has The Handmaid's Tale on it when Mrs.
We're not approving the original motion.
Okay, we're just
we are
approving Slaughterhouse 5 to
yes.
sensitive.
So we're going to have two separate
Gotcha.
amendments.
Yeah, that's
We're
exactly
only
what I was
voting.
asking.
Yes, I apologize.
I'm a little slower than Mr.
Okay.
Laney, apparently.
So we are simply going to vote on this specific amendment. The amendment being to notate Slaughterhouse 5 as a sensitive title. That is the only thing we are voting on at this moment. Okay.
Great.
So, so may I have a motion to amend the original motion to approve as presented by Mr. Laney, the amendment to the motion being, oh, no,
you
I
can't do
apologize.
that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm saying,
Okay,
yeah.
this is a specific vote on the amendment, a motion to vote on the amendment to move Slaughterhouse 5 as Slaughterhouse 5 as a sensitive title. Okay.
Okay, so
yes.
we're marking Slaughterhouse 5 as a sensitive title, so moved.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstain? Okay, motion passes for the amendment only. Okay, I believe Mrs. Case would like an amendment to remove The Handmaid's Tale from the recommended list.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Believe motion passes 3-2, or motion fails 2-3. The nays. Okay, motion fails for the amendment to remove Handmaid's Tale from the list. Okay. So we now have the original motion with the amendment to move Slaughterhouse 5 as approved. So all those in favor, because we already have the motion was already on, and then we passed the amendment. And so now we are going to vote for those in favor of the motion as amended for the 9 books. Oh, yes.
So how does this work if I just said no on Handmaid's Tale? So that mean I have to vote no on this too?
You can vote how you choose on this.
Yeah.
So knowing that this list now remains, so the list remains as 9 books.
Mm-hmm.
With the Slaughterhouse 5 as sensitive titles. So we now have 5 sensitive titles on the list. Handmaid's Tale remains on the list.
Okay.
And so then at this point, you'd be making a decision on voting this now recommended list as presented with the amendment to the sensitive title. Okay. All right. So I believe we already have that motion, right?
Have that motion.
Okay, so that motion is already there. And so now we just need to, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
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 The motion carries 3-2. Okay, all right. Next on our agenda is gifts and donations. We appreciate all the donations that we receive in our district throughout the year. I wanted to highlight some at this meeting. We had donations from Desert Springs Preparatory PTA, cash donation of $1,800 for their 6th grade field trip. Desert Trails Elementary PTO donated about $4,500 for speaker for outdoor learning area. And Cody Hout donated $1,000 to the art program there at Desert Trails Elementary. Additionally, we had Abrazo Central Campus and Scottsdale Campus donate $2,200 to summer school program at Paradise Valley High School. Shadow Mountain High Booster Club Matador Parent Teacher Club donated almost $3,000 to the JROTC program. And then the Del Rito program partners made donations to Sunset Canyon for toys, prizes for PBS students and teachers and resources, classroom supplies, year-end gifts for students. Donated $2,000 this time, and just wanted to highlight that they have been very supportive of Sunset Canyon throughout the year, and with donations totaling of over $8,000. So we really appreciate our partners in our community. Please say thank you if you know any of our donors, and appreciate all of our donations in all amounts. May I have a motion for acceptance of gifts and donations, please?
So moved.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is items for discussion. Dr. Bales.
President Matura, governing board members, cabinet, and guests tonight, Dr. Corson and team will share some student achievement results in math for those students who had high participation rates with Zern, one of our K-6 governing board approved curriculum resources. Dr. Corson.
Good evening, President Matura, governing board, Dr. Bales, cabinet, and the guests who have hung in there. Tonight, Jean Copen, Director of Assessment, joins me to present our Zern Impact Study for grades 1 through 6. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to share with the governing board the results of a study we conducted in partnership with Zern to examine the impact of Zern usage on student math achievement. In tonight's presentation, Ms. Copen and I will provide an overview of the curriculum resource, an overview of the study we conducted and its results, and a few implications and next steps we will be taking. As a reminder, the governing board adopted Zern as a curriculum resource in 2019. At the time, our curriculum committee was committed to finding a math curriculum resource that was closely aligned with standards, embedded evidence-based practices, built strong conceptual mathematics understanding, and scaffold algebra concepts that prepared students for higher levels of math in high school. Zern is a comprehensive digital and teacher-led resource that accompanies Eureka Math and Open Up resources in our K-5 and 6-8 classrooms. Not only does Zern provide individualized and differentiated instruction and practice for students at the teacher's discretion, but it also provides immediate feedback to students, which we know is an evidence-based strategy that increases learning and retention. In order to receive the most benefit for using Zern, the platform recommends the students complete 3 to 4 individual lessons per week for maximum impact on learning. Zern is a comprehensive curriculum that includes independent, individualized lessons that complement the teacher-led instruction. For example, if you walked into some classrooms, you might find that the teacher teaches a math lesson to the whole group, and then the students work independently on their Zern lesson that complements the teacher's instruction. Other teachers choose to conduct teacher-led instruction with only 50% of the class, while the other half work on their digital Zern lesson. Then the students switch. At no time is this resource designed to be independent only. It does require the teacher to provide instruction. Additionally, Zern uses high-effect strategies to reinforce teacher-led instruction. Some of these strategies include manipulatives and pictorial representations to increase conceptual understanding of mathematical concepts. Another strategy is frequent checks of understanding in digital and pencil paper format with immediate feedback. The platform also provides adaptive supports and recommendations for the teacher to keep remediation tightly aligned to core instruction. And lastly, the program also provides teachers and instructional leaders with real-time data on math learning. With these high-effect strategies, we were confident that Zern Math would help our students to continue to grow, especially during very challenging learning conditions during the pandemic. We had already tracked Zern's success in other districts and states, and we were particularly interested in whether our PV students were experiencing similar results. Therefore, we partnered with Zern to conduct a research study to determine how our students' Zern usage correlated to their growth and achievement. Ms. Copen is going to share an overview of the study and its findings.
Good evening. The research study began with a question. How did math achievement for students who completed 3 or more Zern lessons per week compare with students who completed 0 to 1 lessons per week? 3 to 4 lessons completed per week is recommended by Zern to have the most impact on student growth. To create the data set for this study, we collected math achievement data for 1st and 2nd grade students using district inspect assessments. And for 3rd through 6th grade, we use the state math scores. This data was correlated to how many lessons students completed weekly during the 2020-2021 school year. There were over 3,000 students in this impact study. During the 2020-2021 school year, our 1st and 2nd grade students took an end-of-year assessment called Inspect. The Inspect test measures essential grade level standards, and results are recorded in School City. The orange bars represent the average amount of correct questions for students who completed less than 1 Zern lesson per week. The purple bar represents the average amount of correct questions for students who completed 3 or more lessons per week. From this data, we concluded that consistent Zern users in grades 1 and 2 had higher district formative math scores at the end of the 2020-2021 than lower users. For grade 2, higher users' scores were more than 2 times those of lower users. This chart is organized similarly to the previous chart. Again, the orange bars represent students completing less than 1 Zern lesson per week, and purple represents students completing 3 or more lessons per week. The achievement measure for these students was the 2021 state math test, which was AZM2. The numbers displayed in each column are scale scores. From this data, we concluded that across grades 3 through 6, students who completed 3 or more Zern lessons per week scored higher on the math AZM2 relative to low users at the end of 2021 school year. Another way to look at achievement is by translating a change in scale score to months of growth. The colors in this chart are consistent with the others, where orange lines, again, represent the students completing less than 1 Zern lesson per week, and purple represents students completing 3 or more lessons per week. The 2 groups of students that were most impacted by Zern usage were students in the lowest proficiency categories on the state math test, which are minimally proficient and partially proficient. Students in these 2 groups did not pass the state math test, and therefore progress for these students was a particular interest for this study. I'm going to have some circles pop in here to help us kind of dissect this graph. In looking at these particular groups of students, the study found that minimally proficient students who completed 3 or more Zern lessons in a week grew an equivalent of 6 more months than students who did not. Partially proficient students saw the largest gain, equivalent to 8 months or 8 months more growth than students who did not complete 3 Zern lessons per week. The study found that with consistent Zern usage, students labeled not proficient in 2019 grew more than 2 to 2.5 grade levels during 2 years of pandemic learning. This chart provides us another way of looking at those 2 groups of students and the impact that Zern usage had, again, on the minimally and partially proficient students. The first set of columns represents the students who scored minimally proficient on the state test in 2019. These students then took the state test in 2021 and were divided into 2 groups based on their Zern usage. Again, we'll pop in some circles here. The first column shows how students scored when they completed less than 1 lesson per week. And the second column shows how students who completed 3 or more weekly lessons scored. 39% of students in the second group were able to test out of minimally proficient level in 2021. Okay, now we're going to look at the next one. Looking at the partially proficient students, you can see that the improvement was even more pronounced in this group, particularly in the percentage of students scoring minimally proficient. 71% of students who scored partially proficient in 2019 and did not complete 3 or more weekly Zern lessons fell back to minimally proficient on the 2021 test. The group of students completing 3 or more lessons which is the second column, experienced only a 19% fallback to minimal, and 34% of these children moved to proficient in 2021. Overall, performance levels improved drastically for high Zern users than for these below proficiency groups. Oh, we lost connection. Oh, there we go. Thought it might have timed us out. Time to leave. Yes. Yes. The study also looked at the achievement for two of our subgroups, students who are in special education and students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch. Students from these traditionally disadvantaged groups saw an even larger impact on their achievement when using Zern at the intensity level, again, of 3 or more lessons completed weekly. In summary, high Zern users in all grades grew more than low Zern users on average. Zern was particularly effective for students who started below proficiency. These students grew almost 1.5 times as much with consistent Zern usage on average compared to low users, resulting in more than 2 grade levels of learning during the pandemic. Zern was also effective for students on free and reduced lunch eligibility and special education students who grew 3 to 4 months more on average with consistent Zern usage compared to students that were low users. This study is just beginning. This is our partnership with Zern. We will be adding our 2022 scores to this information to widen this pool of data even more. And Dr. Corson's going to share some immediate implications and next steps that we have for Zern implementation.
Well, these results validate the impact this curriculum resource can have on student achievement when implemented with consistency and fidelity. To support its implementation, we'll continue with a few next steps. First, we will embed ongoing professional development for teachers on the Zern platform, how to interpret and leverage its reports, and how to implement classroom structures to support both teacher-led and independent digital engagement. While we have also provided this training previously, we recognize the importance of ongoing professional development. We've also provided training to our instructional coaches as an additional layer of support. We also heard from our kindergarten teachers that children struggle to log into their electronic accounts before knowing their letters and words needed for usernames and passwords. So in collaboration with our information technology department, we are implementing new QR codes for kindergartners as a way for them to log into their accounts. We believe this will help our kindergarten students access the digital platform until they know their letters to be able to enter their usernames and passwords. And in addition to Ms. Copen's point, we'll continue tracking participation and achievement data. Ms. Copen and I, along with our elementary math curriculum specialist, Kaylin Miller, who is here tonight, are here to answer any of your questions about Zern or the study itself.
Mr. Laney?
If I understood this correctly, I know we've been here long tonight, so I don't want to take too much more time. It seems to impact our Title I schools more. Is that correct on this?
So students on free and reduced lunch eligibility, they're not necessarily Title I. It's looking across our system. So we will
Maybe I should say are disadvantaged or are less well-off students.
Yeah, so our Title I schools would have higher percentages of those students.
Mrs. Bacon?
So how does one become a 3-time or more user per week? Are we giving that time in classrooms for every student to do that? Because if it's being done at home, that's great, but it's not really, it doesn't really help people who don't have access or don't have the kind of supervision that my kids had for homework. So how does one become a super user of Zern?
So the platform is intended for students to complete their Zern lessons within the instructional period, and that can happen a couple of different ways. It can happen on certain days that are described as Zern days, where the teacher may on one day have led a whole class teacher-led instruction, and maybe the next day the students are working on their Zern lessons that complement the instruction, or many teachers do a 50-50 model within the same class period.
So that then begs the question is, why do we have students who aren't doing it 3 times a week?
Yeah, well, oftentimes it could be several variables. It could be that some teachers have chosen to leverage more teacher-led instruction and therefore aren't allocating as much time to the Zern. Sometimes teachers are fighting minutes within their schedule and maybe don't feel as though they have enough minutes in the day to be able to have students work on Zern lessons. And some teachers have chosen, in some cases, to use some other independent math lessons. But we are setting the expectation, and we do track the expectation, that students are completing 3 or more lessons per week, and we do provide that information to both teachers and principals.
So I guess my concern about this is, this is great. I mean, fantastic results. Really think if we can get every student to be a super user, we would be in good shape. But the question for me is, what is preventing that? And are we working with teachers to figure out, what do we need to do to help you to get every student to be doing this? Because that apparently is the key. And so you can give us any curriculum and it may have great results, but if it can't be done with fidelity in every single classroom, how can we make that happen? What is our responsibility as district leaders to make sure that whatever curriculum we're giving them, they have the time, they have the resources, and they have the knowledge to do?
Mrs. Bacon, President Mature, governing board members, and a special thank you to Jean, Caitlin, and Dr. Corson. I think it's clear that it mostly impacts our minimally and partially proficient students, right? So it is a tier 2 intervention primarily. Are we using it as tier 1 as whole group? Since we saw the impacts having, most impact on those kids, but is it used as a tier 1 intervention in those classrooms, Dr. Corson?
It is used as it's a part of our tier 1 core curriculum. And although we saw the most gains on our minimally proficient students, if you look at the data, it also does show improvement within proficient students as well. And so we do want to continue using it as part of our tier core curriculum with that. And I do believe Dr. Jarris.
Yeah, and I want Caitlin to have a chance to talk. She's been sitting so patiently too.
Yeah, it's definitely a tier 1 curriculum, but it also has a built-in intervention piece as well. So it does give you that foundational lessons as well, because it also has that differentiation. So, but it's always supported and a decision made by the teacher. So it will adapt. So it's very hard for teachers to use adaptive technology and differentiate for every single person. So this does, but then it also says, hey, wait a second, they're having problems. Let's go back and work together with the teacher and the student. So it's used in both tier 1, but it's also used as a sort of, I like to call it tier 1.5. So it's like, because it's used, it's a tier 1 interventions, but it also has that, when used with fidelity, it has this intervention piece as well.
Dr. Jarris, I got to think that this data helps drive some of those conversations you have with principals in implementing this too.
By all means, we've been, we've talked through the strategic planning process about MTSS, multi-tier systems of support, which includes having a common, strong tier 1 identified curriculum across a school system. And that's been the work of the principals this year, is identifying what is in place in their schools, what are teachers using, and what aren't they using. And then the big question is, why are they not? And so with our math curriculum and our ELA curriculum, our principals have been surveying teachers and identifying what's in place, and Zern has been one of those. And then, of course, then the question is, why not? It could be our schedule needs to be adjusted. It could be a mindset of the teachers. But it could be that they've got a conflicting other resource that they're using, and that's what they're identifying now, is how do we get to the point where we're using it to this level. And the data definitely does help support that movement.
I have a question.
Mrs.
So this is kind of a crazy question. And I have a couple. Is Zern used for online elementary students? Just curious. The ones who have signed up for online,
Used for PV Connect.
PV Connect
They actually use it with Fidelity.
with Fidelity on PV Connect, but okay, but not for necessarily the online.
No, but I'm actually having discussions on Monday with the teacher that's Moodling for PV Online to looking at how looking at Zern with that. So we've definitely opened up those conversations.
Okay, and then is, this is just a crazy question. With the way the math has changed, you're not just doing 3 plus 4, you have to do dots for 3 and 4 and all that kind of stuff. Are the Zern story problems or are they math facts?
Well, yes. So there is
Both.
there's fluency. There's what's number sense fluency at the beginning, which is adaptive. So if they struggle with what facts or whatever they were doing within number sense, it adapts to the student. It then follows with lesson-based fluency that directly supports the lesson that they're doing. And then they have what's called the video math chat, where they have those stop points and they do their notes that directly correlates to the lesson that they're doing in Eureka or Open Up. So the teachers are always doing manipulatives and different models with the students, and then the Zern lesson reinforces that. So it's like having another expert teacher, because sometimes when you do something, sometimes you need to hear it a different way, like in a different voice, right? And then after that, they do the that's called the guided practice. After that, they do independent practice to show whether they understand it, and then after that, they would do their written exit tickets to see that paper pencil transfer, and for the teacher to see as a formative assessment to see if they understood what they were doing or if they needed more help with it.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is like immediate feedback for when they go through the lesson, the teacher will immediately know if they got it, if they kind of got it, or if they didn't get it at all. And they'll be able to see all of the results for all of their students and know if, none of the students were really understanding that, then go back over with everyone. But if most got it, then they can do the tier 2 interventions with those students that they know immediately did not understand the lesson fully.
Correct. And it provides real-time data for that, and it has reports which are called tower reports, or reports from the fluency to see if they were struggling with number sense, or ones if they were struggling with the concept. And it also has, as well as the intervention that can be assigned for foundational lessons, it has some that just-in-time intervention. So it also has it also connects to our screeners, which were created and based on the questions in Zern and Eureka and Open Up. So if we do our screeners at the beginning of each unit, and if it identifies that they need help, all of them need help, then they might do a couple of kickstart lessons, or the teacher might do some just-in-time lessons, or if certain students are identified, then it provides those foundational lessons for it. So we've tied in our assessments as well as part of our MTSS work.
Mrs. Case?
So the reason that you can do the research on it is because every time child A logs in, they use their number, and then you can watch that child and how many times they're kept track of how many times they enter, how many times they do it, and that's how you can do the research on it. You just pull from their own, but it's not used in kindergarten?
It is used in kindergarten, but it doesn't have the written notes. They have digital activities which are based on number sense, mainly around counting, but then also some of the manipulatives in the standard and some of the models. So they do about 10 minutes little activity, 4 times a week, the same thing, and the teachers still get a report the same, and it really prepares them for the counting concepts that they're going to need, not only in kindergarten, but also in first grade. So, and that was why we thought it was so important to partner with IT to come up with the simple QR code. And actually all of the schools as of yesterday are all set up with their computers for kindergarten. We piloted it, and now it is completely set up. So starting in the new year, when they come in, they'll be able to start straight away and be able to get through those digital activities.
Wow.
Mrs. Greenberg?
Because it's differentiated and we're treating it as a resource, I would assume on the flip side, it also helps students who are mastering the lessons pretty quickly to also continue that mastery or, up their game as well, correct? Almost like an independent, I don't want to say independent study, but I mean, I guess the question would be is how high can they go? I mean, how much further can they go, or does it restrict them?
They have also in each lesson, I was in a content replacement gifted classroom in Fireside yesterday with the teacher there, and they were doing the 2 years in front, and I was walking around asking them how they like it, and before they knew who I was, by the way, I was like, but they do have the unscaffolded, what are called bonuses, and the students commented on how much they liked those because they were challenging. The really great advantage of that we have with Zern is it's not, we don't purchase student licenses or teacher licenses, they're school-based licenses. So all our licenses are from kindergarten through 8th grade. So wherever we are, we can move both because that's the whole thing with MTSS, right? It's like the up end and the down end and the level end. So that is a really exciting part of it as well.
Great. Thank you so much. I love hearing all of this information. I thought it was really well presented, and I was excited by, when I was reading this earlier, I was excited by the outcomes that we are seeing from the Zern usage, and as others have stated, that it would be wonderful if we had some more super users out there as well, and having teachers really understand why this Zern versus the one that they may have used in the past that they really like, that maybe give Zern a try because we're seeing actual results, and seeing this and having that opportunity for all the students would be really nice. So appreciate all that. Thank you so much. And with that, before we adjourn, I would like to remind you that the next regular board meeting will be held on Thursday, June 2nd at 5 p.m. because we will be on our summer schedule. And may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.